Chapter 1136. To think that all of you have read the books of the sages and call yourselves gentlemen? This is simply preposterous. Do any of you have any sense of shame? Could it be that you do not feel ashamed of your own actions? As soon as Zhang Rang finished speaking, the civil and military officials who had always argued with Zhang Rang to the end were all speechless. They had no choice but to do so. It had to be known that they had no ability to refute Zhang Rang's words, nor could they refute them. Refuting them was equivalent to admitting their incompetence, and not refuting them was equivalent to admitting that Yi Chen was correct. This was the true situation that the officials who had stepped forward to use Lu Hong to suppress Yi Chen were facing. As for these officials, they did not dare to speak out against Yi Chen before, because Yi Chen's speed of conquest was simply too fast, and his achievements were monstrous. Once their words were spread out, they would definitely be cursed by the common people of the Great Han Dynasty, and would be viciously recorded in the history books. But now, they had no choice but to mention it. Yi Chen's actions of sweeping across the world were simply too terrifying. If they continued to be afraid of this and that and did not speak out, and then allowed Lu Hong to suppress Yi Chen, then the Great Han Empire that was already riddled with holes and on the brink of collapse would really not collapse. If the Great Han Empire did not collapse and decline, then how could they, who had ulterior motives, profit from it? How could they fulfill the ambitions in their hearts? There was simply no way around it. Okay? Thus, they had to stop Yi Chen's actions of sweeping across the world, and they had to ruthlessly scheme against Yi Chen once. Otherwise, as long as Yi Chen was around, the Great Han Empire would not be destroyed. In the future, Yi Chen would inevitably become the most powerful person in the Great Han Dynasty, second only to one person, above tens of thousands of people. All the clans, all the nobles would have to be controlled by Yi Chen, and they would have to act according to Yi Chen's mood. This was not the result they wanted to see. Unfortunately, although their thoughts were good, the result was very cruel. Zhang Rang's words had completely blocked their path. They could neither advance nor retreat, so they could only choose to remain silent. When Lu Hong, who was seated on the dragon throne, heard Zhang Rang's words, the fear he had for Yi Chen because of the official's words instantly vanished without a trace. In the next second, Lu Hong chuckled and stroked the beard on his chin, then said, "That's right. Father Rang is right. All of you need to reflect on your actions." "Yes, Your Majesty." The officials who didn't know how to get out of the embarrassing situation hurriedly bowed to Lu Hong and said loudly. Lu Hong nodded his head in satisfaction, and then he said, "The Han Dynasty has become another Han Dynasty. Another piece of land has been added to the Great Han Dynasty's territory. Everyone should celebrate. Pass down the decree. The entire country will celebrate for 3 days." "Yes, Your Majesty." When Zhang Rang, who was standing beside Lu Hong, heard this, he hastily bowed and greeted loudly. Empire of Southeast Asia. In the governor's mansion of the Reincarnation Immortal City. Yi Chen nodded his head in satisfaction as he glanced at the several huge temples surrounding the capital of the Empire of Southeast Asia. Then he looked directly at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals. "Return to the city and rest for a while. We will continue the battle later." "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals bowed and saluted loudly in the direction of the Reincarnation Immortal City. Yi Chen used his mind to distort the space around the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba shouted in unison. "Return to the city." After the generals gave their orders, the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City lined up and entered the distorted space. Then they disappeared. On the ground, the players who came to the Empire of Southeast Asia because of the special plot mission, the invasion of the deities, were enveloped by the light of the teleportation and disappeared without a trace. When the Eastern players saw the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City leaving, they rushed to the capital of the Empire of Southeast Asia excitedly. There were countless equipment, skills, and other items that the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City did not want. They did not want to miss out on them. In the drill ground of the Reincarnation Immortal City, Guan Yu, who had just teleported to the Reincarnation Immortal City through the distorted space, suddenly released an extremely powerful aura. At this moment, the heaven and earth spirit Qi in the Reincarnation Immortal Island surged toward Guan Yu. Yi Chun, who sensed the change in the heaven and earth spirit Qi in the Reincarnation Immortal City, was slightly taken aback. In the next second, Yi Chen's eyes lit up. Guan Yu was going to advance to the Purple Mansion realm. As Yi Chen thought of this, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhang Fei, Li Yuanba, Zhang Liao, Gao Shun, Zhang He, Chu Yi, Gan Ning, Han Deng, Cheng Pu, Zhao Meng, Huang Zhong, and Huang Su all exuded the aura of advancement. Yi Chen could not help but smile when he saw this. Although most of the soldiers he killed during this expedition were ordinary soldiers and did not give much EXP, there were quite a lot of them. Not bad. Not bad. Thinking of this, Yi Chen waved his right hand. Tens of thousands of supreme-grade spirit stones appeared instantly and flew directly to the sky above the drill ground. In the next second, Yi Chen clenched his right hand into the air. Bang, bang, bang. Incomparably dense explosions sounded in an instant. Then, tens of thousands of supreme-grade spirit stones shattered and turned into extremely dense heaven and earth spirit Qi. In the next second, tens of thousands of supreme-grade spirit stones turned into heaven and earth spirit Qi. They were directly divided into dozens of portions and rushed toward Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. The Purple Mansion realm was a critical period for cultivators. If there was not enough support from the heaven and earth spirit Qi during the advancement, then the gold core that should be formed would definitely not be of high grade. Although the heaven and earth spirit Qi in the Reincarnation Immortal City was extremely dense and was enough to satisfy the needs of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba, the problem was that it would take a certain amount of time. Of course, this was not the key. The most important thing was that Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and the other generals were now on the drill ground. If they broke through together, there would inevitably be a situation of competition for heaven and earth spirit Qi. If Yi Chen did not take action, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei would inevitably have some bad results when they advanced. Yi Chen did not want to see such a situation happen. To be more precise, Yi Chen wanted the gold cores that Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei and the other generals were about to condense to the highest grade that they could reach. The gold core was divided into 9 grades. 1 star was the weakest and 9 stars were the strongest. Yi Chen did not know what grade of gold core the generals such as Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, and Zhang Fei would condense. However, this did not prevent Yi Chen from making the decision to let them be in the best state for advancement at all times. After all, they were all Yi Chen's subordinates and were all loyal to Yi Chen. If the grade of gold core they could condense was high enough, it would naturally be of great help to Yi Chen. Time slowly passed. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals' auras of advancement became thicker and more intense. And the amount of heaven and earthling Qi they absorbed increased and became denser and denser. After half an incense stick's worth of time, 9 golden stars suddenly appeared above the head of Guan Yu, who was the first to advance. These golden stars were condensed from heaven and earthling Qi. When Yi Chen saw this, his eyes suddenly widened. A 9-star gold core. Gold cores were divided into 9 grades. Above the 9 grades were the legendary gold cores. For example, Yi Chen's chaotic gold core was the highest grade of gold core. Of course, this was not important. What was important was that the 9-star gold core was the highest grade among the normal gold cores. Once a 9-star gold core was formed, it would inevitably lead to a bright future. To be precise, if a 9-star gold core was formed, then, after passing the flying immortal tribulation, there was a great chance that he would directly advance to a celestial immortal. This was the terrifying and powerful part of a 9-star gold core. It was also the reason why Yi Chen's eyes lit up when he saw Guan Yu condense a 9-star gold core. After all, Guan Yu would probably become a celestial immortal after passing the flying immortal tribulation. Although celestial immortals were not ranked in the untainted world, they were not people that could be defeated by any Tom, Dick, or Harry. In this way, Guan Yu could do more for Yi Chen. Of course, the reason why Guan Yu could condense a 9-star gold core was also because Yi Chen had specially improved the root bones of all his subordinates and imparted top cultivation methods to them. However, this was not all, because a 9-star gold core could not be condensed with these. Otherwise, all the indigenous people in the untainted world would have a 9-star gold core. Good, good. Just as Yi Chen was thinking about this, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals' auras suddenly condensed. Then, 9 golden stars condensed from the spiritual chi of heaven and earth appeared directly above their heads. Seeing this, Yi Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. Then, he could not help laughing wildly. Ha ha ha! Damn it, super-class historical generals, first-class historical generals, they really have great potential. I gave them an opportunity, and they all condensed a 9-star gold core. Great! I will soon establish the Samsara Empire. Once I ascend to the untainted world, I will directly obtain a group of generals with great potential. Cool. Just as Yi Chen was thinking about this, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba opened their eyes at the same time. Then, they directly flew into the sky. In the next second, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and Li Yuanba directly flew to the gate of the city governor's mansion of the Samsara Immortal City, and then entered the city governor's mansion one after another. After everyone entered the gate, they all knelt down on one knee in front of Yi Chen, who was in the city governor's mansion of the Samsara Immortal City. Then they cupped their fists, raised them above their heads, and bowed loudly. Thank you for your cultivation, my lord. We swear to follow you until death and never betray you. If we swear this oath, our souls will die and our Tao will disappear, and we will be punished by heaven and earth. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and other generals had different backgrounds and experiences. However, they all had one thing in common. That was, they were all cultivated by Yi Chen. They had obtained Yi Chen's cultivation method, been strengthened by Yi Chen, and had also obtained the equipment and wealth given by Yi Chen. For them, Yi Chen was not only their lord, but also their second parent, their teacher. It could be said that they were able to achieve what they had today, all because of Yi Chen. Now, they had all advanced to the 9-star gold core realm. How could they not be grateful to Yi Chen? After hearing the heartfelt word from his subordinates, Yi Chen nodded with a smile and said, "All of you have just advanced to the violet core realm. Familiarize yourselves with it and stabilize your cultivation base. Later, we will attack the West Continent." "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals' faces turned solemn when they heard this. Then they bowed and saluted Yi Chen loudly. After that, they left the city governor's mansion one after another. Aoxiong Empire, Yin City, Leia City, Imperial Palace Conference Room. Kings from all over the West Continent had gathered here. At this moment, they were sitting around a huge conference table and seemed to be discussing something. Everyone, the current situation is not optimistic. Yi Chen has already destroyed 5 countries in a row. If we don't take action, the next country to be destroyed might be one of us. Louis William, the King of France, said worriedly. The current situation was imminent, especially after Yi Chen killed the Emperor of the Empire of Southeast Asia. Panic was spreading rapidly among the royals of all the countries in the world. But he might not attack us, right? After Yi Chen destroyed the Empire of Southeast Asia, he hasn't shown up. Jason, the king of Aoxiong Empire, said uncertainly. "You're too naive. Do you want to gamble the safety of your country on Yi Chen's idea? He hasn't attacked us yet, but that doesn't mean he doesn't have such thoughts. When he really comes, it will be too late for regrets. The King of France said vehemently. He was speechless at Jason's ignorance. But Yi Chun is too strong. How can we fight against him? Schneider, the King of Eagle Country, said helplessly. To be honest, he didn't want to be swallowed up by Yi Chun either. However, Yi Chun's strength was right there for all to see. At this moment, a deep sense of helplessness rose in his heart. Louis William, the King of France, suddenly stood up and said in front of everyone, "That's why we have to work together. Only then will we have a chance of winning. Otherwise, we'll be defeated one by one and follow in the footsteps of the Empire of Southeast Asia." Seeing that no one answered, his face suddenly darkened. He then said angrily, "None of you want to be beheaded in public, right? None of you want to become a member of the imperial court, right? The only way for us to survive this crisis is to unite as one." As soon as Louis William finished his words, everyone's faces changed drastically. In the next second, the kings of each country looked at each other and expressed their opinions one after another. "I agree. Only by working together can we have a chance to survive." "That's right. I agree to form an alliance too." "I agree too." "I agree." Just like that, the Great Western Continent Alliance, formed by dozens of countries in the Western continent, was formed. The kings agreed that as long as Yi Chun attacked any country in the Great Western Continent Alliance, the other countries would immediately send their troops to reinforce them. They wouldn't give Yi Chun any chance to take advantage of the situation. Reincarnation Immortal City. After returning, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army rested for a period of time and gathered at the drill ground once again. No one died in the previous battle. Only a few unlucky fellows suffered minor injuries. However, with the help of Nanhua Elder Deity and Hua Tuo's medicine, they recovered immediately. The drill ground. After arriving, Yi Chun glanced at his subordinates who were still filled with fighting spirit and nodded in satisfaction. Then, he waved his right hand, and a dozen spatial distortions appeared instantly. After glancing at the spatial distortions that appeared near the drill ground, Yi Chun looked directly at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals who had advanced to the Purple Mansion realm and shouted, "Attack the Aoxiong Empire!" "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard this and bowed in unison. After that, they led the 2,410,000 Reincarnation Immortal Cities army towards the spatial distortions. Chapter 1137. When Reincarnation Immortal Cities army arrived at the border of Ao Xiong Empire, Ao Xiong Empire had yet to react. Laya City was the largest city at the border of Ao Xiong Empire. Due to its strategic location, this city had a large stockpile of strategic resources and weapons. Reincarnation Immortal Cities army moved quickly. They charged at full speed the moment they came out of the space tunnel. The first army to arrive at Laya City was Zhao Yun's White Horse Righteous Army. At this moment, Zhao Yun was on his war horse, observing the majestic border city from afar. If they could take down this city, Ao Xiong Empire's barrier in the north would be opened. The army could then march straight to Ao Xiong Empire's Yin City. 10 million elite soldiers. It seemed that Ao Xiong Empire had been frightened by Lord's annihilation. Otherwise, they would not have been able to gather so many elite soldiers so quickly. At this thought, Zhao Yun retracted his divine sense and raised a spear in his right hand. When the 100,000 White Horse Righteous army saw this, they narrowed their eyes and clamped their legs on the bellies of their horses. Neigh, neigh, neigh. The deafening neigh of the war horses was heard. Then, the 100,000 White Horse Righteous army's speed increased greatly. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Woo! At this moment, the loud and urgent sound of a horn was heard. This was the sound of the horn from Laya City. It was alerting the guards of Laya City that the enemy had arrived. In the next second, countless heads appeared on the city walls of Laya City. The dense formation of spears was like scales of scales. The firing holes on the city walls also revealed dense arrowheads. The entire city entered a state of battle. In an instant, the tense atmosphere spread throughout Laya City. The guards of Laya City were not surprised by the sudden arrival of Reincarnation Immortal City's army. They were already mentally prepared for this and had made sufficient preparations in advance. The city walls were already filled with various defensive structures, ready to deal with the sudden attack of Reincarnation Immortal City's army. The cold wind whistled and the sand billowed. At this moment, Ao Xiong Empire's main general was looking at the Reincarnation Immortal City's army outside the city with a stern expression. In the distance, the weapons in the hands of the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers emitted a dazzling, cold light that struck fear into the hearts of the onlookers. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City was pressuring the city. The soldiers guarding the city felt suffocated. They came too quickly. City Lord Laurel muttered to herself, her face filled with worry. In order to guard against Yi Chen's attack, Laya City had gathered the best troops in the entire Western continent. As the commanding general, ever since he was transferred here, he did not dare to slack off at all. Although a large number of elite troops from various countries in the Western continent were gathered here, he still felt uncertain. It was no wonder that he would act like this. After all, he was going to face Yi Chen's army from Reincarnation Immortal City. They were almost invincible existences. Although he was not confident, he still had to fight. This was a responsibility that he could not shirk. After calming himself down, he began to inquire about the situation of the troops. Are the troops guarding the city ready? Reporting to the general, all the archers are in position. Reporting to the general, the Mage Corps is in position. Reporting to General, the Knight Legion is in position. Reporting to the General, the Warrior Legion is in position. Reporting to the General, the Priest Legion is in position. After receiving the reports from the troops, the City Lord felt much more at ease. Looking at the ferocious Reincarnation Immortal City army outside the city, his ears seemed to be ringing with the massacre that took place in the Empire of Southeast Asia that he had heard from the Emperor not long ago. His current feelings were very complicated. If Yi Chen accepted the surrender, more than 90% of the defending troops in the city would come out of the city and surrender immediately, right? It could be said that the Reincarnation Immortal City army was now a nightmare for all the countries. Facing such an opponent, every second was closer to death. Otherwise, the countries in the Western continent would not be in such a hurry to form an alliance. At this time, the World Channel was also in an uproar. Ha! Yu of Gojoseon's Reincarnation Immortal City army has appeared in Laya City of the Aoxiong Empire. Those who want to collect the corpses, come quickly. If you're late, all the good stuff will be gone. Really? I was wondering why I didn't see them in the Southeast continent. So they went to the Aoxiong Empire? Wait for me, I'll be right there. Yu of Gojoseon is going to swallow the whole world? I wonder if he'll succeed? Do you still need to ask? With Yu of Gojoseon's strength, he should have unified the world long ago. Ah, that's great. In the future, the East will rule the world. Cars will be on the same track, books will be written in the same language, and all the foreigners will be listed as slaves. This is so awesome. Not bad, not bad. When the time comes, I'll buy more than 10 foreign girls as slaves. Ha! Bah, shameless. Go home today and kneel on the washboard for me. It's just a joke. My dear wife, don't take it seriously. All right, kneel on the washboard or sleep on separate beds. You choose. I'll kneel on the washboard then, brother. I sympathize with you. Coward. You can't even handle a woman, and you still want to buy slaves. What a joke. What are you laughing at? You're in your 30s, and you're still single. How dare you laugh at me? The East was happy, but the West Continent players were miserable. They were all cursing in the World Channel. Damn it, Yi Chen, that bastard, is attacking our Aoxiong Empire. Request backup. Not good. Laya City is in danger. Allies, please send reinforcements. Yi Chen, you're too damn greedy. Not only did you destroy so many countries, you're now targeting us. Aren't you afraid that you'll die from overeating? That's right, that's right. Yi Chen is the representative of those greedy Easterners. He's simply scum. Come on, you pigs. I'm not afraid of you. Yi Chun, do you think you're so great just because you have some strength? Our West Continent alliance is not a pushover like the Empire of Southeast Asia. You can do whatever you want us. If you don't believe me, come and try. I'll make sure you don't return. What are those East players thinking? Are their brains filled with SH*T? How dare they attack our West Continent alliance? Have they been fooled by Yi Chun? Are they willing to be cannon fodder for him? Ah, pigs, come on. My butcher's knife hasn't tasted blood for a long time. When it came to cursing, these West Continent players were no match for the East players. Their clamoring was immediately rebutted by the East players. What a bunch of idiots. West Continent Alliance? What kind of F***king alliance is that? A bunch of rabble trying to resist Yu of Gojosian's Reincarnation City Army? What a joke. Ha! Seriously, are these white-skinned pigs from the West Province all retarded? They're telling us that we don't return? They make it sound like it's true. I'm really worried about their IQ. Chapter 1138. Those West Continent bastards are all incestuous. How can you talk about intelligence with them? It's too hard on them. Stupid West Continent pig, if you have the guts, just wait in Leia City. I'll teach you a lesson when I get there. I promise I'll beat you up so badly that your mother won't recognize you. West Continent idiots, I'm coming to F***CK your buttholes. Wash your butts and wait. Kill all the West Continent pigs. While the players were cursing each other in the World Channel, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Dian Wei, and the other generals arrived with their troops. After getting into formation, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army began the first round of attack. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals shouted in unison, "Attack!" In the next second, earth-shattering battle cries were heard. Kill! 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 At this moment, the Reincarnation Immortal City's cavalry raised countless sharp spears that were flashing with cold light. The cavalry troops at the back pulled their bows to the maximum and launched a rain of arrows from 1 kilometer away. Swoosh, 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 an incomparably dense rain of spiritual artifact arrows pierced through the air as they soared into the sky. Then, they covered the sky as they fell toward the city walls of Leia City. The Castellan of Leia City narrowed his eyes when he saw this, and then he roared, "Activate the protective shield." As soon as the Castellan of Leia City gave the order, a huge transparent shield rose from Leia City and enveloped the city. At this moment, the rain of arrows from the Reincarnation Immortal City's army descended. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After an incomparably dense buzzing sound, the rain of arrows that blotted out the sky were all deflected by the transparent light shield. The Castellan of Leia City heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the Castellan of Reincarnation Immortal City had blocked the rain of arrows. He then shouted, "Archers, wizards, attack!" As soon as he gave the order, countless arrows, fireballs, ice arrows, and other small spells fell from the city walls and flew toward the charging Reincarnation Immortal City army. Boom, 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 swoosh. The attack of the Ao Xiong Empire's Border Defense Army looked extremely fierce. Unfortunately, it was like scratching an itch on the Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers and couldn't cause any damage at all. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The army of the Reincarnation Immortal City continued to charge forward. They didn't seem to be affected by the attacks of the Ao Xiong Empire's army, which had dyed the sky with all sorts of colors. At the same time, the Reincarnation of Reincarnation Immortal City and other generals, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and other generals, they glanced at the same time. At this moment, the weapons in the hands of the generals were covered in a green light. Green Lotus Sword. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Huang Zhong all swung their weapons toward Leia City. At this moment, the green sword chi that was filled with a destructive aura exploded in the sky, forming countless green longswords that were densely packed together. In the next second, the green longswords that blotted out the sky slashed toward the defensive shield that Leia's city had just erected. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. Dense sounds of objects being cut sounded. Then, the defensive shield of Leia's city, which had blocked the arrow rain of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, exploded and turned into nothingness. How is this possible? When the city lord of Leia's city saw this scene, he was so shocked that he almost dropped the weapon in his hand. This barrier was meant to protect the city. They had experimented before. Even if 100,000 saint-level cultivators attacked at the same time, they would not be able to break this powerful defensive shield. But today, this supposedly invincible defensive shield was so easily broken by Yi Chen's subordinates. The Castellan of Leia's city's Castellan's worldview crumbled instantly. After breaking the defensive shield, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, Huang Zhong, Dian Wei, and the other generals immediately commanded their troops to charge toward the city gate. At this moment, all kinds of Dharma spells and arrows flew from the top of the city like raindrops. Reincarnation Immortal City's cavalry charged forward against these attacks. When they reached the city gate, Guan Yu swung his saber. A huge light blade instantly blasted the city gate into smithereens. Kill. Once the city gate was broken, Reincarnation Immortal City's cavalry charged into the city like a whirlwind. The Castellan of Leia's city thought that he might not be able to stop the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, but he did not expect that he would be defeated so quickly. After a short moment of shock, the Castellan of Leia's city hurriedly shouted, "Quick, chase them out of the city." With the city gate broken, there was no favorable terrain to restrict the cavalry. If it did not chase the Reincarnation Immortal City's army out of Leia's city, the Castellan of Leia's city would have to face the Reincarnation Immortal City's army head-on. He did not want to see such an outcome. Otherwise, he would not be so anxious. Once the Castellan of Leia's city gave the order, the elite soldiers in the city instantly reacted. Although they were equally shocked and even afraid, their identity as the elite soldiers of Aoxiong Empire was real. It was also because of this reason that even though the Leia's city soldiers were very afraid now, they did not hesitate much. In just a few breaths' time, groups of Leia's city soldiers quickly rushed toward the Reincarnation Immortal City's army that was attacking the city. They lined up in a neat formation and charged toward the White Horse Cavalry that was the first to charge into Leia's city. The one leading the way was a tall and burly shield warrior with a large shield in his hand. They held large shields that were as tall as a person and lined up in a neat and tight shield wall that kept advancing forward. Behind them were heavy infantrymen holding heavy swords. Then there were light infantrymen, followed by a mixed troop of archers and sorcerers. There were also some priests moving together. Their footsteps were uniform, and every step they took caused the ground to tremble and rumble. Under their steel helmets, pairs of eyes filled with hatred glared angrily, as if they wanted to devour all the enemies in front of them. Before Zhao Yun's troops could move, the enemy opposite them had already launched an attack. Instantly, countless arrows and all kinds of spells flew over and immediately covered the White Horse Cavalry. Unfortunately, the arrows and spells did not have any effect on the soldiers of the White Horse Cavalry. Kill. After Zhao Yun roared, he squeezed the horse's belly with his legs and then led the White Horse Cavalry into the enemy's formation. In the next second, mournful howls rang out one after another. Ouch! The fine iron shields of the shield warriors in Leia's city were like paper in front of Zhao Yun. The moment they came into contact, they were cut into pieces by Zhao Yun's Courage of Dragon's silver spear. Those light infantrymen, archers, priests, and sorcerers with low HP were even more vulnerable. In an instant, a large number of them were lying on the ground. Then, the White Horse Cavalry that followed Zhao Yun directly charged forward and killed those who were not completely dead yet. At the same time, they fought with the uninjured enemies. The White Horse Cavalry's long spear was as fast as lightning, piercing through the enemies in front of them like candied haws. Shrill screams echoed in the streets. The soldiers of the Western Province Alliance Army fell into a pool of blood, unable to rest in peace even when they died. On the other side, Guan Yu had just entered the city when he encountered a group of well-equipped cavalrymen blocking his way. Every single one of these cavalrymen was wearing excellent battle armor. Even their horses were wearing excellent horse armor. The cavalrymen's spears in their hands shone with a cold light. It was obvious that they were not ordinary items. When the leader saw Guan Yu, he arrogantly raised the cavalryman's spear in his hand. "The Holy Knights Templar are here. Quickly get off your horses and kneel down to accept your death." At this time, sorcerers and archers appeared on the eaves on both sides of the street. They surrounded the Samsara Legion cavalrymen, led by Guan Yu, from 3 sides. "Accept my death? You think you're worthy?" Although the members of the Holy Knights Templar were all Saint tier, they were still not enough in front of Guan Yu. After a cold laugh, Guan Yu slashed forward with the green dragon crescent blade in his hand. The next moment, 3 piercing rays of light shot out and cut through the formation of the Holy Knights Templar at lightning speed. Puff, 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 puff. The dazzling rays of light flashed, and 3 gaps were cut in the formation of the Holy Knights Templar. The Holy Knights in 3 straight lines were all cut in half from the middle. Blood and organs splattered everywhere, dyeing the entire street red. Chapter 1139. Guan Yu's unbelievably brutal attack left the Knights of the Temple Knights dumbstruck. Although this was their first time fighting with the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, they had heard all kinds of stories and rumors about them before the battle. Therefore, the Holy Knights knew how powerful the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was. Even so, they did not expect the Reincarnation Immortal City's army to be so much stronger than them. If it were them, although they would not be able to destroy 5 nations in a short time, like the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, they would still be invincible in attacking cities and conquering territories. But now, what did they see? The general of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, Guan Yu, chopped thousands of holy knights into pieces with 3 casual swings of his sword. These were thousands of saint-ranked Knights Templar, but they had been chopped into pieces like cabbages. What did this mean? It was very simple. Guan Yu's strength was far beyond theirs. Before the Holy Knights could recover from their shock, Guan Yu led his cavalry and charged forward. A one-sided massacre was staged once again. The Reincarnation Immortal City's cavalry swung their swords up and down, chopping the Holy Knights in front of them off their horses. Broken limbs flew everywhere, and heads flew up. The Holy Knights' blood-curdling screams rose and fell one after another, making one's hair stand on end. The sorcerers and archers on both sides of the eaves kept shooting arrows and casting all kinds of magic attacks, trying to cover the retreat of the Holy Knights. However, they realized that their attacks were so weak and powerless in front of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army's superior equipment. Their attacks could not break the defense of the Samsara Legion soldiers at all. Just as the sorcerers and archers on both sides of the eaves were dumbfounded, Guan Yu's soldiers retaliated with arrows. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The soldiers of the West Continent Alliance army on both sides of the eaves were hit by arrows and rolled down from the roofs. They should have died on the spot, but they did not. Instead, after vomiting blood and screaming in pain, they got up and ran away energetically. Guan Yu, who noticed this, was stunned. What's going on? As soon as Guan Yu's doubts appeared, he released his divine sense and frowned. The people on the roof wearing white robes should be special forces. They could even heal the wounds of dying people. If there were players here and they saw the person wearing a white robe on the roof, they would immediately realize one thing. The white-robed men were all priests. These white robes had to die. At the thought of this, Guan Yu pointed the green dragon crescent blade at the roof. In the next second, the sound of something breaking through the air was heard. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Tens of thousands of arrows instantly rose into the air and enveloped the white-robed priest on the roof. In the next second, the sound of arrows piercing through bodies could be heard. Poochie, 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 ah! The priests who were hiding behind the roofs were all shot like hedgehogs. They couldn't be any more dead than they were now. On another street, The allied army formed by the natives of the Western continent surrounded Zhang Fei's team in a huge square. There had been a fierce battle here before. Zhang Fei and his cavalry slaughtered more than 10,000 soldiers of the Western continent's allied army in just a few minutes. And now, the square was already a scene of hell. As far as the eye could see, the mutilated corpses of the Western continent's allied army were piled up everywhere. The ground seemed to have just been washed with blood, and the red ground looked particularly mournful at this moment. And now, the Western continent's allied army that had surrounded them coordinated with 20-meter-tall mobile arrow towers and surrounded Zhang Fei and his cavalry with monstrous killing intent. At this moment, their hatred was bursting, and their killing intent was soaring to the sky. The countless gleaming spears in the infantry formation were like a sea of trees. The thick and heavy shield was like an incomparably solid steel wall. On the 10-meter-tall mobile arrow towers, there were dozens of mages and priests. As they advanced, their eyes were bloodthirsty and extremely confident. They firmly believed that their formation was enough to annihilate the powerful reincarnation Immortal City army in front of them. Zhang Fei glanced at the allied army that had surrounded them and sneered. Then he raised his snake spear and shouted, "Everyone shoot at will!" As soon as Zhang Fei finished speaking, the reincarnation Immortal City cavalry released their bowstrings and instantly shot out a flurry of spiritual artifact arrows that shone with a cold and sharp light. Wong. Countless arrows fell from the sky like a curtain of rain, directly covering the huge army formation that was approaching from all directions. Puff, 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 puff. The rain of arrows fell from the sky and pierced into the bodies of the Western continent's allied army. Shields and armors were like paper in front of the arrows of the reincarnation Immortal City army, unable to withstand a single blow. In the next second, extremely mournful screams rose from the square. This round of arrow rain caused them to suffer heavy losses. Don't retreat. Speed up and charge forward to kill them all. Under the pressure of the officer, the Western continent's allied army rushed forward against the dense cluster of arrows. Like a wave, one batch rushed forward, and another batch fell, one batch fell, and another batch rushed forward now. Even the empty space in the square was filled with arrows. The corpses of the Western continent's allied army formed a wide isolation belt in front of the reincarnation Immortal City cavalry. The 20 mobile arrow towers were all destroyed, and the priests and mages on them were all killed. But even though they suffered heavy casualties, the Western continent's allied army continued to charge forward because they were elite soldiers and because they could not retreat. Unfortunately, no matter how they charged, they still became corpses in the end. Shoot. At Zhang Fei's command, tens of thousands of arrows rose rapidly into the sky and whizzed toward the enemy formation. Puffed, crack, puffed, puffed, puffed. Along with the crisp sound of arrows piercing through armor, the sound of arrows piercing into flesh could be heard, followed by the miserable howls of the Western Continent Coalition Army. It was exceptionally mournful and horrifying on this bloody battlefield. The battle was tragic, but the tragic party was not the reincarnation Immortal City's army, but the Western Continent's native army. Their death toll rose rapidly, but their numbers did not decrease. Instead, with the support of the reinforcements, their numbers grew even larger. They were all members of the city defense team. Although many of them were not citizens of the Ao Xiong Empire, they still did not retreat, because they knew that if they retreated, they would receive the most severe punishment. If they retreated, the gates of the Western Continent would be completely opened to the reincarnation Immortal City's army. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Puff, puff, puff. The enemy's death toll rose rapidly, but the number of survivors did not decrease at all. Zhang Fei looked at this and glanced at the increasing number of defenders. His eyes suddenly lit up. It's about time. Thinking of this, Zhang Fei quickly raised the Zhongba snake in his hand and shouted, "Charge! Kill all of them!" It was obvious that Zhang Fei, this bad-tempered black servant, deliberately let the defenders surround them. As for his purpose, it was very simple. Kill more, kill more. Kill, kill, kill. Deafening battle cries rang out from Zhang Fei's 100,000 soldiers. In the next second, Zhang Fei led his 100,000 soldiers to charge on the streets where they could not charge. Rumble, 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Fei and his men had entered the state of charge. In the next second, a green spear radiance shot out from the Zhangba snake spear and directly cut the bodies of thousands of Liya City's native soldiers. The road in front of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army was instantly cleared. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. After Zhang Fei's attack, Zhang Fei's 100,000 Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers immediately followed. In the blink of an eye, they collided with the defenders of Liya City. Bam, bam, bam. The overcrowded defenders of Liya City were sent flying by the collisions. At the same time, row after row of cold spears stabbed out. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The cold spears pierced through the bodies of the defenders of Liya City one after another. Blood began to gush out. Disbelief appeared frequently, and shrill screams began to reverberate on the streets. Chapter 1140. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Zhang Fei led his 100,000 troops to kill the city guards of Liya City. Men and horses were thrown off their feet, and blood flowed like a river. The terrain and environment that originally prevented them from charging could not restrict Zhang Fei and Zhang Fei's 100,000 troops at all. Violent, overbearing, and unstoppable. These were the true portrayals of Zhang Fei and his 100,000 troops from Reincarnation Immortal City. This also caused the city guards of Liya City, who wanted to rely on the human wave tactic to completely annihilate Zhang Fei and Zhang Fei's subordinates, to quickly fall into a state of collapse. Even though they were once elite soldiers who had never cowered even in the face of near-death situations, at this moment, they were unable to control themselves. Their hearts were filled with fear, which then turned into despair. It was not that they did not hit the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers, but it was useless. When their attacks landed on the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers, it was no different from scratching an itch. They could not cause any harm to the Reincarnation Immortal City soldiers at all. The cruel reality, the bloody massacre, and the mournful screams were all destroying their nerves. After a few breaths, the city guards of Liya City who wanted to besiege Zhang Fei and Zhang Fei's 100,000 troops could not help but think of retreating. Then, one after another, the city guards of Liya City put their thoughts into action. Sensing that the soldiers under their command were not in the mood to continue fighting and had even begun to flee, the Liya City generals furiously slashed and killed several of the city guards who wanted to retreat and flee. Don't retreat, charge. Kill them all. Angry and panic-filled, orders rang out one after another. Unfortunately, it was useless because the military orders could no longer suppress the fear in the hearts of these Liya City soldiers. They could not defeat or resist and could only be slaughtered one-sidedly. In the face of such deaths, even the formerly brave and invincible indigenous allied forces of the West Continent could not continue to muster the courage to resist. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped and the earth rumbled. The bodies of the city guards of Liya City were sent flying again and again. Scarlet and bloody blood splattered in all directions. Wails, pleas for mercy, screams, shouts, war horses galloping on the ground. The sounds of bodies colliding, the sounds of weapons colliding, and the sounds of spells bombarding. All of these sounds converged and converged, forming a symphony of death that belonged to the battlefield. The battle in the square was like a never-ending meat grinder, constantly devouring fresh lives. Zhang Fei led 100,000 soldiers from Reincarnation Immortal City and pierced through the army of Liya City. No one could stop them, and no one dared to stop them. Crackle, crackle. Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers stabbed their spears at the bodies of Liya City's soldiers again and again. The sharp tip of the spear instantly broke through the thick, fine iron shield. The soldiers behind the shield had no time to react before the sharp spear pierced through their bodies. Poochie! Following the sound of spears piercing into flesh, hot blood spurted out from the eye-catching wounds on their bodies. Pung, pung, pung. The internal organs of Leah City's soldiers exploded like rotten tomatoes that had been forcefully squeezed. Fresh blood, mixed with internal organs, spurted out continuously. Leah City's soldiers collapsed in pools of blood. Their corpses piled up on the ground like piles of garbage, and were then ruthlessly trampled by the mounts of Reincarnation Immortal City's army. In just a few breaths of time, they had turned into minced meat on the ground. As time passed, Reincarnation Immortal City's army had all charged into the city, and their speed of killing the enemy soldiers became faster and faster. The number of Leah City's soldiers was rapidly decreasing under the efficient slaughter of Reincarnation Immortal City's army. Leah City's city lord, who saw all this, felt as if a knife was being twisted in his heart. Watching his subordinates being slaughtered by Reincarnation Immortal City's army, but being unable to do anything, was the most despairing thing. He had already sent out a request for reinforcements, but there was still no sign of reinforcements. Oh God, do you want to see your people being exterminated? The city lord of Leah City, who had been watching the battle in the city, weakly held onto the battlements on the city wall with both hands, and then let out a desperate cry. Luo Maro's sect, inside the sacred palace. All the emperors of the Western continent were gathered here. The red-robed Archbishop Phaedro was sitting on the huge sacred throne, listening to the pleas of the emperors. Sir Phaedro, Yi Chen's Reincarnation Immortal City's army has reached Leah City at the border. The entire Western continent is in danger. Please help us, Sir Phaedro. Yes, Sir Phaedro, we really have no other choice now. Yi Chen's army is too powerful and is not something we can resist. If you don't help us, the entire Western continent will become a scorched land, and we will become the second empire of Southeast Asia. Sir Phaedro, if the entire Western continent is destroyed, Luo's sect will not be able to remain unscathed. The emperors spoke one after another, and the scene was in chaos. Everyone, please be quiet. The red-robed archbishop at the side hurriedly maintained order. After the discussion stopped, the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro, who had been silent all this while, finally spoke. Do you mean that you want me to activate the teleportation portal? Summon the holy spirits to the lower realm to destroy Yi Chen? Hearing this, the Emperor of France immediately stepped forward and said, Sir Phaedro, you're right. We have the same intention. Based on the current situation, we can't resist Yi Chen's army. The only thing we can do now is to ask the gods for help. As soon as the Emperor of France finished speaking, the emperors of the other countries immediately looked at the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro expectantly, quietly waiting for his answer. Looking at the anxious eyes of the crowd, the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro muttered with a serious expression, You must know that summoning the gods to the lower realm requires a huge price. Are you prepared for this? As soon as Phaedro finished speaking, the Emperor of Eagle Country immediately stood up and replied, Sir Phaedro, we're willing to give you all our treasures and assets. What else do you need? Just tell us. As long as we can get through this crisis, we're willing to pay any price. Yes, Sir Phaedro, as long as you can summon the gods to the lower realm, we're willing to give you everything. The emperors of the Western continent countries were now united against a common enemy. Or rather, they were extremely terrified. This was because they understood that nothing was more important than their lives. As long as they could preserve their lives, there was nothing they couldn't give up. When the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro saw this, he nodded slightly and said, Since that's the case, it's decided. That's great. On behalf of all the people of the Western continent, I thank the red-robed Archbishop for saving our lives. When the Emperor of the Ao Xiong Empire heard this, he immediately bowed to Phaedro excitedly. Thank you, Sir Red-Robed Archbishop, for saving our lives. When the emperors of the other countries heard this, they immediately expressed their gratitude to Phaedro. When the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro heard this, he smiled amiably and said, Actually, I don't have to summon the gods. Actually, other than summoning the gods, I have a better solution. Do you want to hear it? Oh, what is it? Please enlighten us, Sir Red-Robed Archbishop. When the emperors heard the red-robed archbishop say this, they were both curious and happy. They were curious as to what method was more effective than summoning the gods. They were happy because they had to pay a huge price to summon the gods. If they were unlucky, they might end up penniless in the future. If they could solve the problem without summoning the gods, why not? Seeing how interested they were, Federo coughed and asked, "What's the matter? You have all heard of vampires and werewolves, right?" When these words came out, all the emperors present were stunned. As superiors, of course, they were aware of this information. These two creatures were not legends, they were real. And now, when the red-robed Archbishop Federo suddenly mentioned this, it naturally meant that he wanted to make use of these two creatures. Otherwise, he would not have said this. At first glance, it was a good thing, but the problem was that whether it was vampires or werewolves, they were all existences that were equivalent to demons. If they were not careful, they might end up making a fool of themselves and bring trouble to themselves. Therefore, none of the emperors dared to directly express their stance. When the red-robed Archbishop Federo saw that the emperors present were all looking at each other without saying a word, he could not help but smile. He then said, "I know you have concerns. How about this? I'll tell you the story of these two creatures. I'm sure you all know that in the history of the Western continent, the two evil creatures, vampires and werewolves, have wreaked havoc. In the end, it was the Luo denomination who took action to completely suppress them." At this point, he paused and swept his gaze across all the emperors present. He then continued, "For thousands of years, through the unremitting efforts of the Luo denomination, we have completely eradicated these two creatures from the secular world." Chapter 1141. The emperors of the Western continent were stunned when they heard this. Since the vampires and werewolves were already dead, what was the point of mentioning them? For a moment, the emperors of the Western continent were confused. They could not figure out what the red-robed Archbishop Federo was up to. The red-robed Archbishop Federo looked at the emperors of the various countries and said, "I know you're confused. In fact, this involves the core secret of the Luo denomination. If it weren't for Yi Qin's invasion, you'd never know." Core secret? The emperors of the Western continent were stunned when they heard this. At this moment, the red-robed Archbishop Federo continued, "For more than 1,000 years, the Luo denomination has been wiping out the vampires and werewolves of the secular world. In the beginning, the Luo denomination's method of execution was to kill these two evil creatures immediately. In order to wipe them out, the Luo denomination has summoned the powerful gods of the heavenly realm several times in history and even built a permanent teleportation circle. However, we later found out that these two creatures are extremely tenacious. Even if they don't suck blood, they can use the method of hibernation underground to extend their lives. It can be said that as long as they don't encounter sunlight, they will never die. As for the high-level vampires and werewolves, they are not afraid of sunlight at all. Based on this situation, some people in the Luo denomination think that it's a pity to kill them like this. These vampires and werewolves are powerful and can be used as slaves. Therefore, in the next 1,000 years, the vampires and werewolves captured by the Luo denomination will not be killed. Instead, they will be sent to a secret underground base and forced to hibernate. When the Luo denomination needs them, sometimes they will be awakened with fresh blood and used for my use. I think this is the time to use them." The red-robed Archbishop Federo stopped talking. After a brief moment of shock, the eyes of the emperors of the Western continent lit up. "Lord red-robed Archbishop, how many of these vampires and werewolves are there?" The Emperor of France asked impatiently. "More than 30 million vampires and more than 20 million werewolves." The red-robed Archbishop Federo said with a smile. "TSK, so many." Hearing this number, all the emperors present sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, extremely excited expressions appeared on their faces. In the next second, The Eagle Kingdom's emperor bowed to Cardinal Federo. "Your Excellency, please awaken these vampires and werewolves now." To be able to invite reinforcements without spending any money, this transaction was simply too worthwhile. The Eagle Country's emperor naturally knew how to choose. As soon as the Eagle Kingdom's emperor finished speaking, the other emperors followed suit and bowed. "Lord Archcardinal, please awaken them." When Fedro heard this, he raised his hand and clapped twice, indicating for the emperors to quiet down. After all the emperors quieted down, Cardinal Fedro opened his mouth and asked, "Aren't you going to ask what price we have to pay to awaken these vampires and werewolves?" "What is the price?" The emperor of the Ao Xiong Empire, who was the first to be attacked by the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City, hurriedly looked at the red-cloaked Archbishop Fedro and asked. As soon as the emperor of the Ao Xiong Empire asked this question, the emperors of the other countries immediately cast doubtful gazes at Cardinal Fedro. Cardinal Fedro glanced at the emperors of the various countries and said faintly, "There is only one price to awaken the vampires and werewolves, and that is human blood." As soon as Cardinal Fedro's words fell, the emperors of the various countries were all stunned. At this moment, Fedro continued, "To awaken the vampires and werewolves, human blood is required. If 50 million of them are awakened at the same time, it will require the blood of at least 50 million people." As soon as Cardinal Fedro's words fell, the emperors of the various countries in the Western continent fell into silence. At this moment, the Holy Hall entered a state of silence. One could hear a pin drop. It was no wonder that these emperors were silent. After all, 50 million people's blood was equivalent to 50 million people's lives. As long as the emperor was not crazy, no one would choose to kill so many people at the same time. This was because if they dared to do so, there would only be one outcome in exchange, and that was the rebellion of the common people and even the soldiers. At that time, they would not have any confidence in quelling the rebellion, let alone whether they could resist the attack of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. As for spreading the blood of 50 million people to hundreds of millions or even hundreds of millions of people, there would not be a situation where the common people died, and there would not be any resistance from the common people. This was true. However, the problem was that Yu of Beach and Yi Chun of the Great Han Empire had already led the army to the Western continent, to their doorstep. If they really chose this safe method of unsealing the vampires and werewolves, they would waste a lot of time. At that time, perhaps the millions of vampires and werewolves that had just been unsealed and Yi Chen's army of the Reincarnation Immortal City would attack the Holy Hall. At that time, they would not have the chance to continue unsealing them even if they wanted to. It was also because of this reason that the emperors of the various countries did not know how to choose. The former could be unsealed directly, but it was very likely that they would lose their throne because of this. However, the latter would be the destruction of their countries. No matter what the outcome was, it was not what they wanted to see. Why don't the Ao Xiong Empire provide the 50 million people? After all, Yi Chun is attacking the Ao Xiong Empire. The emperor of the first country was silent for a moment, then looked directly at the emperor of the Ao Xiong Empire and said. When the emperor of the Ao Xiong Empire heard this, his face darkened, and he shouted angrily, "Bastard, you also know that our Ao Xiong Empire is being attacked by Yi Chun. Then why don't you think about whether our Ao Xiong Empire has the chance to gather 50 million people and escort them to the Holy Hall?" When the emperor of the first country heard this, he frowned and said, "Let's do it in Roma City. The Holy Hall is here, and there are more than 70 million people here. This way, we can quickly unseal the vampires and werewolves." When the emperor of the first country heard this, his face darkened. However, before he could say anything, the emperors of the other countries nodded in agreement. When the emperor of the first country saw this, his face instantly turned pale, but he did not say anything. This was because his empire was the weakest among the few empires. If he insisted on not agreeing, it was very likely that he would be attacked by the other empires. After a short moment of anger, the emperor of the first country shouted in a deep voice, "I want compensation. When the emperors of the other countries heard this, they all nodded in agreement. Aoxiong Empire, Leia City. After an easy and tragic battle, the reincarnation Immortal City's army finally took over the city. The city was filled with corpses and rivers of blood. Not a single living thing was left alive. In this siege, the reincarnation Immortal City's army maintained a glorious record of 0 casualties. As for the millions of Eastern players who knew that Yi Chun was attacking the Western continent, they used all kinds of methods to quickly reach the Western continent. They all rushed into the city excitedly and wantonly picked up equipment, skills, and all kinds of other items. Haha! Yi Yu of Gojoseon is so nice. He doesn't want all these good items and left them for us. You just arrived, right? It's not that Yi Yu of Gojoseon doesn't want these items. He just doesn't want them because the equipment that Yi Yu of Gojoseon gives his subordinates are even better and better. Yeah, these items are basically trash in Yi Yu of Gojoseon's eyes, so he definitely won't want them. If he doesn't want such good items, then what kind of equipment does the reincarnation Immortal City's army use? I'm not sure about that. We don't even know the names of the reincarnation Immortal City's army's weapons and equipment, but one look and we can tell that they're very good items. That's right. Compared to the armor that they're wearing, the items that we picked up are like paper. They can't even withstand a single blow, Sai. If only I could join the Samsara Legion. The benefits are so good. Stop dreaming. Don't even think about it in this lifetime. It's more reliable to pick up more items. I don't know when we'll be able to kill those foreign devils. I can't wait. Don't worry. No matter where those foreign devil players hide, we'll meet them eventually. When that time comes, we'll kill them to our heart's content. Of course, damn it. Back then, the 8-Nation Alliance did a lot of harm to the East. Now that we're in the Western continent, if I don't kill them all, I'm not worthy of being called an Eastern. I'll go to the East in this lifetime, but I'll stay in China in my next life. Just as the Eastern players who came to the Western continent through various means were discussing heatedly, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for successfully occupying Aoxiong Empire's Leia City. Special reward. Innate attribute points x 1000. Chapter 1142. The world announcement was repeated 3 times, and the entire world channel exploded. Haha, I told you that Yi Yu of Gojoseon would win. How is it? Is my prediction accurate? Bullsh asterisk T, even an idiot can guess it. You don't have to tell me. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is indeed Yi Yu of Gojoseon. He said he would attack the Western continent, and in the blink of an eye, he logged into the Western continent game zone and destroyed a city. Ha ha ha. Foreign devils of the Western continent, it's useless to resist. The East will unify the world. Ha ha ha. What about that bunch of arrogant Western continent trash? Why aren't they shouting? Did they become mutes so quickly? Weren't they very arrogant just now? Eastern pig, don't be arrogant. I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Yi Chun, you're an inhumane pervert. God will not forgive you. Eastern pig, I'm right here. Do you dare to come? Where are you, you idiot? Tell me your location. I'm coming right now. Ha! Eastern pig is so stupid. I won't tell you. What can you do to me? Hee. These Western pigs are indeed a bunch of cowards. They're only good at talking. Ha! That's right. Foreign devils of the Western continent. Aren't you very awesome? If you have the guts, come out and let's fight one-on-one. Hee. Does he have the guts? I think he's already scared out of his wits by Yi Yu of Gojoseon's reincarnation Immortal City army. He can only hide in women's skirts and shout. Damn, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Western Continent Game Zone, Aoxiong Empire, reincarnation Immortal City's city, Lord's Mansion in the sky above Leia City. Yichen glanced at the World Channel, which was buzzing nonstop, and curled his lips in disdain. In his previous life, the Western Continent players had caused a lot of trouble in the beginner's area of the Three Kingdoms. They had also killed a lot of Eastern players. Although the situation was reversed in this life, their arrogance still hadn't changed, continued to be arrogant and shout. When my butcher's knife sweeps across the entire Western Continent, the Eastern players will kill them until they reach level 0 and collapse. Then they will cry. At this thought, Yi Chen couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. He then looked at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals in Li City. Just as Yi Chen was about to give the order to continue attacking, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Due to player Yi Chen, the special races vampire and werewolf have begun to awaken. Ding! World Quest, Vampire's Revenge, automatically activated. Ding! World Quest, Werewolf's Revenge, automatically activated. At the same time, all the players in the game directly saw the specific information of these two missions. World Quest, Werewolf's Revenge. Mission background. Due to player Yi Chen's invasion of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, Romero sect awakened their werewolf war slave army. However, although the werewolves appear to be obedient to Romero sect, they're secretly plotting revenge. They want to join forces with the vampire race and plan to destroy all humans. Mission objective: eliminate all the werewolves and stop their plan to destroy humans. Mission reward: receive 1 innate attribute point for every werewolf killed. During the mission period, the experience gained from killing werewolves will be multiplied by 10. The person who kills the highest number of werewolves will receive the ultimate mystery gift pack. Note: the number of werewolves killed by the player's servant defense organization will be counted under the player's name. World Quest, Vampire's Revenge. Mission background. Due to player Yi Chen's invasion of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, Romero sect awakened their vampire war slave army. However, although the vampires appear to be obedient to Romero sect, they're secretly plotting revenge. They want to join forces with the werewolves and plan to destroy humans. Mission objective: eliminate all the vampires and stop their plan to destroy humans. Mission reward: every time you kill a vampire, you will receive 1 innate attribute point. During the mission period, the experience gained from killing werewolves will be multiplied by 10. The person who kills the highest number of vampires will receive the ultimate mystery gift pack. Note: the number of vampires killed by the player's servant defense organization will be counted under the player's name. The appearance of these two quests immediately caused an uproar in the world channel. F***CK. Werewolves? Vampires? Yi Yu of Gojosian triggered another world quest. This reward is 2 F***King Generous. It actually gives us innate attribute points directly. Brothers, do you want to form a group and go? F***CK. Are you tired of living? You even dare to meddle in the quest triggered by Yi Yu of Gojosian? Brother, listen to my advice. Nothing is more important than your life. Although the reward is good, it depends on whether you are alive to receive it. Although many players were very greedy for the reward, because the quest was triggered by Yi Chen, no one dared to participate in this quest. Reincarnation Immortal City Lord Manor. Yi Chen looked at the world channel that kept refreshing. His eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold light flashed across. F***CK. He didn't expect there to be vampires and werewolves hidden in the novice area. In Yi Chen's previous life, neither vampires nor werewolves appeared. Otherwise, Yi Chen wouldn't think this way. A vampire gave 1 innate attribute point, and so did a werewolf. This was an unexpected surprise. Not bad. The effect of innate attribute points was more prominent the lower one's cultivation level was. For example, to advance from an acquired state to a great heaven, one only needed to reach 90 in martial strength. At first glance, it didn't seem difficult, but in reality, it wasn't easy to surpass 90 or 100 in martial strength. Otherwise, there would be a large group of mortal evolution states, or even stronger players in the novice area. Of course, this wasn't important. What was important was that innate attribute points directly increased martial strength. 1 innate attribute point was equivalent to 1 martial strength. Under such circumstances, if players wanted to advance quickly, they only needed to obtain enough innate attribute points. For players who already knew the use of innate attribute points, the attraction was 100% huge. It was also because of this reason that Yi Chun didn't show any arrogance or believe it when he saw that everyone on the World Channel didn't dare to participate in the conversation. To be more precise, there would definitely be players who couldn't resist participating. After all, innate attribute points were no different from reaching the heavens in a single bound. Even if the players were afraid of Yi Chun, they wouldn't be able to resist. Thinking about this, Yi Chun looked at the World Channel and said, "No one is allowed to participate in this quest. No one is allowed to participate in this mission. Those who disobey will be killed." As soon as Yi Chun's domineering words appeared on the World Channel, it instantly silenced the entire channel. After a short period of silence, the World Channel returned to normal. Then it exploded. "Did you see that? Yi Yu of Gojoseon has spoken. If anyone dares to go against him, don't blame me for being rude. I, Zhang Ergu, will say this first. If anyone dares to disregard Yi Yu of Gojoseon's words, they will be going against our Sharks gang." Agreed. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is a good person. We have already benefited a lot from following him. Now is the time to repay his kindness. I, Wang Dazhuang, hereby announce that if anyone dares to touch Yi Yu of Gojoseon's quest, World will be the first to not let them off. The same goes for our united gang. If anyone dares to kill the quest monster, we will be the first to kill them. Count our Axe gang in. Although our organization isn't big, we will never be careless in the face of righteousness. If any bastard dares to cause trouble for Yi Yu of Gojoseon at this time, I, Qian Wuyi, swear that I will make sure he dies without a complete corpse. Our gang also supports Yi Yu of Gojoseon. Count us in. In an instant, messages expressing their loyalty to Yi Chun filled the entire World Channel. The atmosphere was very lively. After Yi Chun saw these messages, there was no expression on his face. This was because Yi Chun had already made up his mind to not let anyone have a share of the loot from this world mission. No matter what others said or did, it would be the same. Whether it was tyrannical or greedy, no matter what it was, Yi Chun would not be soft-hearted. Whoever dared to touch this world mission, Yi Chun would not hesitate to kill them. Damn, a vampire was just 1 innate attribute point. A werewolf was also 1 innate attribute point. It might not seem like much, but when there were a lot of them, it would be a huge amount. If it was divided among the players, then wouldn't Yi Chun's losses be as great as the sky? Yi Chun did not want to see such a thing happen, nor would he do such a thing. The World Channel was full of flattery. Meanwhile, the forces hiding in the dark were so angry that they vomited blood. Damn it. Damn Yi Chun. Isn't he afraid of being stuffed to death by taking all the loot for himself? Mother of Asterisker, is this Yi Chun treating this game as if it's his house? He wants to monopolize the world mission? Yeah, how many times has it been? It seems that if Yi Chun doesn't die, normal players like us won't be able to survive. So what if you won't be able to survive? Who cares if you die or not? Yi Chun's strength is there for all to see. What do you do to him? Sigh, I really hope that someone more awesome than Yi Chun appears. Otherwise, we won't be able to survive. Keep dreaming. Chapter 1143. While all the players were discussing the world mission that Yi Chun had activated, a middle-aged man was playing chess with a white-haired old man in a palace on a certain mountain in the Great Han Empire. He glanced at the world channel that was constantly being refreshed, then looked at the white-haired old man and asked, "What's the matter? Elder Yun, what do you think of this incident?" When that white-haired old man called Old Yun heard those words, he lightly smiled. After that, he picked up a chess piece and placed it down. After a paw sound, the white-haired old man opened his mouth and said, "You have to know that everything in this world, be it people or objects, can't escape the law of decline after the peak of prosperity." Elder Yun, what do you mean? The middle-aged man was taken aback. The chess piece that he had just picked up froze in midair. When the white-haired old man, who was called Old Yun, heard this, he glanced at the middle-aged man. Then, he picked up a cup of tea that was placed next to the chessboard and took a small sip. Only after he placed the teacup down did he open his mouth and say, After taking a sip of the tea, he said, "Back then, the Qin dynasty unified the world. Was it powerful? But when Qin Shi Huang died, it immediately fell apart. Was Hitler powerful back then? But didn't he die a horrible death in the end? Elder, do you mean that we should do nothing and just wait for Yi Chen to perish?" The middle-aged man was taken aback. He placed down the chess piece in his hand and asked. When Elder Yun heard this, he shook his head and picked up a chess piece from the chess box with his right hand. After a pause, he paused for a moment and said, "It's useless to wait. The result we want can't wait." When the middle-aged man heard this, he was slightly taken aback. He asked, "Then what should we do?" "It's simple. We still have to wait, but we can't wait passively. We have to find Yi Chen's weakness. As long as we can find Yi Chen's weakness, the opportunity we want will come. When the time comes, we can kill him with a single blow." After Elder Yun said this, the chess piece in his hand landed on the chessboard with a bang. "Pass down my order. Let the secret guards investigate all the people related to Yi Chen before the meteor fell. Collect all the information about Yi Chen. Also, in the real world, no matter how many people die in Samsara City, I want you to investigate everything about Samsara City. By the way, put a restriction on everyone who goes to Samsara City to investigate. We have already attracted Yi Chen's attention. We can't give him a chance to find us." When Elder Yun said this, a cold glint flashed in his originally calm eyes. "Yes, Elder Yun." When the middle-aged man heard this, his face instantly turned solemn, and he hurriedly cupped his fists. Hearing this, Old Yun chuckled and nodded his head. Then he pointed to the chessboard and said, "Ultimate kill. It's just a small amount of money. You lost again." When the middle-aged man called Xiao Qian saw this, he hurriedly said with a smile, "Elder Yun's chess skills are unparalleled. This junior admits defeat. Don't flatter me. Hurry up and pass down the order. Also, tell everyone not to act rashly. Don't be jealous because of the generous reward for this mission. Otherwise, Yi Chen might follow the vine to find the melon." After hearing the middle-aged man's words, Elder Yun smiled slightly and said, "Yes, Elder Yun." When the middle-aged man heard this, he hurriedly bowed and hurriedly left the hall. West Continent, Aoxiong Empire, above Leia City, Reincarnation Immortal City, City Governor's Mansion. After glancing at the bustling world channel, Yi Chen looked directly at Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, Gan Ning, and the other generals. Then he sent a telepathic message to them. Split up into 10 groups and sweep across the West Continent. Wherever you go, kill them all. The world mission had been activated, but the vampires and werewolves had yet to appear. Although Yi Chen would definitely participate in the mission, he would not let Aoxiong Empire or the other countries off because of this. After all, Yi Chen had gone out to fight to destroy the countries and obtain the fate of heaven and earth. If he let Aoxiong Empire off, it would be a waste of the fate of heaven and earth that Aoxiong Empire had. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the mission was in the West Continent. Otherwise, Yi Chen would definitely send his troops to the places where the vampires and werewolves would appear. "Yes, my lord." Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals heard this and bowed to the Reincarnation Immortal Island in the sky in unison. After the generals finished speaking, they immediately gave the order to continue the battle. Not long after, a long and distant horn sounded. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army left Leia City, which was located at the border of Aoxiong Empire. They split up into 10 groups and sped toward the depths of the West Continent. Along the way, no matter if the Reincarnation Immortal City's army came across villages, towns, natives, or players, they swept past them without leaving a single one behind. In an instant, the air above the West Continent was filled with the smell of blood. As time passed, the smell became stronger and stronger. The natives of the various countries in the West Continent only had one life. If they died, they would die. However, the lives of the players were unlimited because they could be revived. This caused the players of the West Continent to turn from anger to rage. However, it was useless. They could not stop the reincarnation Immortal City's army. The only thing they could do was to vent their anger and dissatisfaction on the World Channel. F*CK, F*CK, F*CK. I didn't do anything to you. Why are you killing me? Yi-chun, you murderous maniac. You're an inhuman scum. F*CKU. I've been killed by them more than 10 times. Yi-chun, you're crazy. You're crazy. I was killed when fighting a boss. Eastern Pig, I'm going to kill all of you. Good job. Those who want to take revenge on Yi-yu of Gojoseon, come and find me. Why would I need Master Yi-yu of Gojoseon to take care of you West Continent trash? That's right. Don't let me see you West Continent idiots. Otherwise, I'll kill you all back to level 0. White-skinned pig, stupid idiot. You want to take revenge? Come and find me? Let's see if I can beat the *T out of you. A bunch of stupid idiots, lowly creatures. Amidst the curses of the West Continent's players and the counterattacks of the Eastern Continent's players, the reincarnation Immortal City's 10 armies swept across the West Continent. Along the way, they attacked cities and killed countless people. 5 minutes later, the capital city of the Ao Xiong Kingdom was destroyed. 10 minutes later, the capital city of the Fu Kingdom was destroyed. 20 minutes later, the capital city of the Eagle Kingdom was destroyed. If not for the fact that the emperors of the various countries were not in their respective palaces, these countries would have been destroyed by Yi-chun. When the 10 armies of the reincarnation Immortal City arrived at Roma City, the entire West Continent had been destroyed. It was already late at night, and a crescent moon hung high in the sky. In the holy palace of the Romoro sect, the emperors of the various countries of the West Continent gathered in the holy palace were glad that they were not in their own countries. Otherwise, there would be nothing left of them. The red-robed Archbishop Federo glanced at the emperors of the various countries, who were still in fear. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. Don't worry. The moon is beautiful tonight. The 50 million werewolves and vampires have all been unsealed. Yi-chun, the heretic, will definitely die without a burial ground." The red-robed Archbishop Federo was very confident. He knew how terrifying the werewolves and vampires were. Back then, in order to destroy them, the Romoro sect had summoned the immortals several times. At that time, many immortals had died in their hands. Although they were the weakest immortals, no matter how weak they were still immortals. There shouldn't be any existence in a mortal world that could hurt them. However, the werewolves and vampires really did kill the immortals. Most importantly, they succeeded. It was because of the contents of the Romoro sect's secret scroll that the red-robed archbishop was so concerned about the vampires and werewolves. It couldn't be helped. The vampires and werewolves were strong and could be controlled. Take the vampires, for example. The vampire Baron strength was comparable to the mortal evolution state. The vampire Viscount's strength was comparable to the purple mansion state. Above that, the vampire Earl's strength was comparable to the nirvana state. The vampire Marquis's strength was comparable to the immortal foundation state. The vampire Duke's strength was comparable to the god martial state. The vampire Prince's strength was comparable to the tribulation passing state. Other than that, there was also the strongest one, the Blood Emperor of the vampires. To be honest, even the red-robed Archbishop Federo didn't know what the Blood Emperor looked like. As for his specific strength, no one knew either. For thousands of years, it was just a legend. Even the vampires didn't know if it existed or not. According to the legends, it would always appear suddenly when the vampires were facing extinction and save them from the fire and water. After the crisis was resolved, it would immediately disappear from the world. According to the legends, there were a few incidents in history where the immortals fell because of the Blood Emperor. However, these were all legends. No one had taken out any evidence to prove these legends. Even so, the vampires still believed that the Blood Emperor would always be paying attention to the situation of the vampires. He could be hiding among the ordinary vampires or among the ordinary humans. Once the vampires were facing extinction, He would step forward bravely and turn the tide, eliminating all the enemies that threatened their survival. Actually, the red-robed Archbishop Federo had his own selfish reasons for paying such a huge price to awaken the vampires. If the vampires were to be annihilated by Yi Chun, then there was a high possibility that the Blood Emperor would be lured out. Chapter 1144. The Blood Emperor was the most wanted criminal in the God Realm. As long as he could force the Blood Emperor out, the God Realm would definitely reward him greatly. He might even be able to ascend to the God Realm and become a god. This was the red-cloaked Archbishop's ultimate goal, or rather, his ambition. This was just the effect of the vampires on Fidro. It wouldn't be much worse for the werewolves. Among them, the gray-haired werewolves were the most ordinary, followed by the black-haired werewolves. Their strength was equivalent to the mortal evolution state. Green-haired werewolves were equivalent to the purple mansion state. Blue-haired werewolves were equivalent to the nirvana state. Purple-haired werewolves were equivalent to the immortal foundation state. Orange-haired werewolves were equivalent to the god martial state. Silver-haired werewolves were equivalent to the tribulation passing state. Other than that, there was the golden-haired werewolf king. Similar to the Blood Emperor, the golden-haired werewolf king never showed its true face. Legend had it that its fur could change into different colors according to its needs. Hence, for thousands of years, those who could see its true face were almost all dead. Similarly, it was also one of the wanted criminals in the God Realm. If he could use the deaths of his people to force it out, Fidro would also be able to obtain great rewards from the God Realm. By then, the god of the God Realm would definitely descend directly. He wouldn't need to pay any price at all. Moreover, he could also get rid of Yi Chun along the way. This was the red-cloaked Archbishop's plan to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. Outside Roma City, a mixed army of 50 million vampires and werewolves filled the wilderness. Tonight, they were going to fight for their own fate. These vampires and werewolves had been enslaved by the Luo sect before they went into hibernation. The red-cloaked Archbishop had already promised them that as long as they could eliminate the reincarnation Immortal City's army, the enslavement restriction would be lifted. Hence, this was their only chance. If they missed this opportunity, who knew when such a good thing would happen again? No one wanted to be enslaved by others. Werewolves and vampires were the same. Tonight, for freedom, they would definitely go all out and tear apart all the enemies they encountered. Although they might lose their lives, this was the price of freedom. Reincarnation Immortal City's city lord residence. Yi Chun, who was releasing his divine sense, glanced at the endless vampires and werewolves outside Roma City and frowned slightly. Vampires and werewolves were not weak at all. However, most of them had yet to reach the Violet Mansion realm, allowing Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, and Guan Yu to lead the troops to battle against the vampires and werewolves. As for the others, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, and Guan Yu were still no match for them. Their realms were too high. Thinking of this, Yi Chun raised his right hand and then bent his fingers to draw a talisman in the air. In the next second, an incomparably huge, evil-slaying rune instantly lit up the sky, and then, with a bang, it exploded into tiny golden runes that filled the sky. At this moment, the entire world lit up. Then, the tiny golden runes that filled the sky fell onto the ground and attached themselves onto the weapons and armors of the reincarnation Immortal City. Vampires and werewolves were evil creatures, and their realms were not low. They were similar to Qin Shi Huang and his million-strong zombie army in the underground palace. In the face of such existences, Yi Chun would not let his guard down. Naturally, he would make all the necessary preparations for his subordinates. Yi Chun did not want to see a large number of casualties in his troops. Just as the reincarnation Immortal City's army became dazzling with golden light, Yi Chun directly rose into the air and flew above the reincarnation Immortal City's army. Looking at the endless army of vampires and werewolves, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and the black and thick Godslayer appeared instantly. In the next second, Yi Chun pointed the Godslayer in his right hand to the front and then shouted, "Kill! Kill! Kill! Kill!" The earth-shattering roar sounded instantly. Then, the motionless reincarnation of Mortal City's army instantly charged forward with Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals. Rumble, rumble, tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. In just a few breaths, the reincarnation of Mortal City's army had increased their speed to the maximum. In an instant, golden light flashed, and the horses' hooves shook the sky. Following closely behind the reincarnation of Mortal City's army was the reincarnation Immortal City's army. It was so thick that it was suffocating. The vampires and werewolves were spine-chilling and did not dare to face them directly. However, the soldiers of the reincarnation of Mortal City's army were fearless and not panicked. All they had was an endless fighting spirit and a murderous aura that soared into the sky and made one's soul tremble. The spiritual spears in their hands shone with a chilling light in the night sky. They were like a sea of stars as they charged forward rapidly. Opposite them, 50 million werewolves and vampires were lined up in huge square formations. It was a black mass that looked like a horrifying monster that stretched as far as the eye could see. These vampires and werewolves were densely packed in front of the Roma City's city wall. Each of them had a ferocious physique and an extremely terrifying, murderous aura exuded from their bodies. Their bloodthirsty eyes shone with an extremely cruel light. Woo! Under the sound of the bugle horn, groups of werewolves and vampires started to attack. At this instant, an extremely evil aura exploded from the allied army of vampires and werewolves. Then, the allied army of vampires and werewolves left a trail of afterimages as they charged toward the reincarnation Immortal City's army. The horses' hooves thundered and the war drums rumbled. Both parties were moving faster and faster. The air seemed to have solidified at this moment. It was so oppressive that it was suffocating. The chilling, murderous aura intertwined, and a horrifying aura shrouded the entire battlefield. The forest of spears was like a sea, and the array of swords was like a mountain. The war flags that were raised high in the sky exploded. Under the leadership of famous historical generals such as Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, and Huang Zhong, the reincarnation of Mortal City's army charged forward bravely. Their murderous aura soared to the sky. The millions of Eastern players who were watching from afar were dumbfounded. Damn, these are vampires? These are werewolves? F***CK. Who can tell me? How can these guys run faster than a warhorse? Damn. Needless to say, vampires and werewolves are very powerful. Otherwise, how can they be so fast? I've only seen vampires and werewolves on TV before. Now that I've seen them with my own eyes, I didn't waste my time in playing the Primordial Age game. Damn. 41 million reincarnation Immortal City's army against 50 million mixed army of werewolves and vampires. This is 1 in 100 years. No, it's 1 in 10,000 years. I'm recording it. It's so meaningful. The ratio of their military strength is 20-1. Moreover, the enemy's aura seems to be more powerful. I wonder if they can win with such a huge difference in military strength. The vampires and werewolves seem to be very powerful. Powerful my foot. In front of EU of Gojoseon's reincarnation Immortal City's army, any opponent is a piece of cake. You don't have to doubt this. I don't know if they're powerful or not, but I know one thing. If EU of Gojoseon doesn't destroy them, they'll destroy the entire world. When that happens, we'll definitely suffer. Just as the Eastern players were having a lively discussion, the allied army of vampires and werewolves roared excitedly. Roar! Their horrifying faces were filled with extreme, bloodthirsty madness. They had been sleeping underground for too long. It had been a long time since they last drank human blood and ate human flesh. Now that they saw fresh blood in front of them, they could not hold back. Rumble, rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Just as the reincarnation Immortal City's army was about to come into contact with the vampires and werewolves, the famous historical generals such as Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, Zhang Fei, Dian Wei, Huang Zhong, Su Chu, and Li Yuanba raised their weapons and shouted, "Kill!" After shouting, they led their own troops and stabbed into the enemy's formation like a sharp sword. In the next second, the two defense forces with a huge difference in numbers crashed into each other like two floods that broke through a dam. Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Zhao Yun, and the other generals fought with the vampire baron and the leader of the black-haired werewolves at the front. Guan Yu waved his green dragon crescent blade and released 3 dazzling light blades, which cut the leader of the 30 black-haired werewolves in half. Zhao Yun stabbed with his spear, and the green lotus sword spell was activated. In the next second, countless green sword auras shot out swiftly, instantly slicing the 35 vampire barons that had charged forward into minced meat all over the ground. They couldn't be more dead than they already were. Zhang Fei, who was the most hot-tempered one, chopped the leader of the 30 black-haired werewolves into pieces. The bloody scene played out immediately. Chapter 1145. Yichen's generals activated their killing mode almost at the same time. Blood began to splatter in the air. What followed after the blood were the corpses of the vampires and werewolves that were killed on the spot and burned into nothingness. This was the result of the evil vanquishing rune's evil vanquishing effect. This was because the vampires and werewolves were evil creatures that were restrained by the evil vanquishing rune. Otherwise, the vampires and werewolves would not have died on the spot after being attacked. The attacks of Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals instantly attracted the attention of everyone who was watching the battlefield. On the city wall of Roma City, the red-cloaked Archbishop Phaedro's eyes suddenly narrowed. How is this possible? Only a god or the power of a god can directly kill the vampires and werewolves. How did they do it? As soon as the red-cloaked archbishop's exclamation landed, the emperors of the various countries in the West Continent who had followed him to the city wall immediately recovered from their shock. "Sir Phaedro, what's going on? Didn't they say that the vampires and werewolves were very strong?" The Emperor of France looked at Phaedro in confusion and then asked, "Sir Phaedro, did the subordinates of Yi Yu, of Gojoseon, of the Great Han Empire, did they receive the blessings of an Eastern god?" The Emperor of Idali suddenly thought of something at this moment and then asked in shock. When the emperors of the other countries heard this, their expressions changed simultaneously. At this moment, the red-cloaked Archbishop Phaedro took a deep breath. After a long exhalation, he said, "Don't worry. They only killed the weakest vampires and werewolves. They won't be able to deal with those of a higher realm." As soon as Phaedro's words landed, the emperors of the various countries in the West Continent all heaved sighs of relief. They did not want to see the allied army of the vampires and werewolves being wiped out by the army of the reincarnation Immortal City. If that was really the case, then their ending would definitely be the destruction of their country. There was no other path to take. They were frightened at the beginning because the rumors about the army of Reincarnation Immortal City were too strong. Reincarnation Immortal City's army had started a massacre as soon as they arrived. Now that they heard Phaedro's explanation, the emperors of the various countries naturally did not continue to panic. After all, the powerhouses among the vampires and werewolves had yet to make a move. Rumble, rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals turned into sharp swords and led the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City into the army of vampires and werewolves. In the next second, the dull and drawn-out sound of a collision, as well as the sound of a spear piercing through a body, rang out one after another. Pung, pung, pung. Poochie, poochie, poochie. The charging vampires and werewolves were sent flying by the war horses of the Reincarnation Immortal City. Then Their bodies were pierced through by the spears of the reincarnation Immortal City soldiers. In an instant, large amounts of blood splattered in the sky. Then, the pierced vampires and werewolves burned in midair and turned into nothingness. Zhao Yun, Dianwei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals had already reached the Purple Mansion state. Although they were not as strong as high-level vampires and werewolves, they were more than enough to deal with ordinary vampires and werewolves. As for the soldiers of the reincarnation Immortal City, although they had only reached the mortal evolution state, their equipment was all beyond that of the novice zone. In addition, Yi Chun had given them the Vanquish Evil rune. It was also very easy to deal with vampires and werewolves. These were the advantages of the reincarnation Immortal City's army. Although there were quite a number of high-level vampires and werewolves among the 50 million vampires and werewolves, they did not participate in the battle. In fact, they had no choice but to do so. Yi Chun, who had already taken out the god-slaying spear, not only had his divine sense locked onto all the high-leveled vampires and werewolves, but he had also released a murderous aura that was as cold as hell and caused one's soul to tremble. It was so powerful that it caused all the high-leveled vampires and werewolves to feel fear. They could not understand because Yi Chen's state was clearly in the Tribulation Transcendent state. However, it was this Yi Chun that made them not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, these high-level vampires and werewolves would have led the way and started a massacre. Rumble, rumble, thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The soldiers of the reincarnation Immortal City raised their weapons and stabbed, raised, and stabbed again. Hordes of vampires and werewolves were stabbed to death again and again. Their corpses burst into flames after bursting into scarlet flowers of blood, and then turned into nothingness. In an instant, the dark night sky was lit up with gorgeous fireworks that represented death. Even so, the vampires and werewolves did not stop charging forward. Their eyes were still bloodthirsty as they roared and pounced on the soldiers of the reincarnation Immortal City with bared fangs and brandished claws. Fresh blood spurted out from their bodies. The sound of weapons piercing into their bodies, mixed with the frenzied battle cries of the soldiers of the reincarnation Immortal City, reverberated throughout the battlefield. Saber radiance flashed, spear shadows were everywhere, and flesh and blood splattered. Fireworks filled the sky as the battle cries shook the sky. The galloping war horses galloped back and forth in the enemy's formation, and the vampires and werewolves were killed again and again. The werewolves and vampires who were constantly being slaughtered still couldn't understand why they died so quickly and directly. The reincarnation Immortal City's army that attacked them did not have the Luo Sect's power of light. Why could they kill them directly? They also did not understand why their extremely strong regenerative abilities were useless in front of the reincarnation Immortal City's army. It was not that they did not panic or fear, but they could not stop attacking and could not escape. This was because they had received the order from the red-robed archbishop. If they dared to stop or escape, they would be killed. Rumble, rumble, thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Zhao Yun, Dianwei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals led the reincarnation Immortal City's army and charged and killed again. The number of vampires and werewolves that died in the hands of the reincarnation Immortal City's army increased exponentially. The vampires and werewolves, who could have swept through the entire world, were like ants at this moment. They were constantly being crushed over and over again. At this moment, the red-robed archbishop, who had been watching the battle from the city walls of Roma, turned green and then white. He wanted to use the reincarnation Immortal City's army to lure out the Blood Emperor or the Wolf King with golden fur, so that he could obtain the rewards from the godly realm. However, the combat power of the reincarnation Immortal City's army was too strong. Not only did they kill mortal evolution states, but they also killed Purple Mansion states in an instant. As for Nirvana states and Immortal Foundation states, they were even able to kill them in an extreme manner. If this continued, most of the 50 million vampires and werewolves would be killed. Even if the Blood Emperor of the vampires and the Wolf King with golden fur were lured out, because of this, the number of slaves that he could control would be greatly reduced. Such an outcome was not something that Cardinal Fidro liked to see. In his plan, the Reincarnation Immortal City's army would at most kill more than half of the vampires and werewolves. However, looking at it now, it would be good if they could kill 80 vampires and werewolves. What the hell was going on? Even a knowledgeable Arch-Cardinal Fidro was unable to understand at this moment. In fact, if Federo's cultivation level was a few levels higher, he would be able to easily see that the reason why the Reincarnation Immortal City's army could easily kill the Immortal Foundation Realm and God Martial Realm vampires and werewolves was all because of Yi Qin's suppression that was comparable to that of an Earth Immortal. To be more precise, as long as those high-level vampires and werewolves came into contact with the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, regardless of whether they attacked or not, they would all be imprisoned on the spot by Yi Qin. This was the reason why the red-robed archbishop could not understand. Rumble, rumble. Thousands of horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. Kill. The werewolves and vampires that kept surging forward were like a surging torrent, and they were all sucked into this merciless whirlpool of killing. As the Reincarnation Immortal City's soldiers raised their battle swords, the vampires and werewolves that were charging forward instantly felt their vision blur. Amidst the whistling of the wind, they saw countless cold lights slashing down instantly. The cold glint of the blade brought about countless mournful cries. The vampires and werewolves who were hit in the vital parts fell to the ground one by one, with their arms and legs broken. Then, they were trampled into meat paste by the galloping warhorses. After that, they became fireworks that lit up the night sky. Charge! Don't retreat! The leader of the vampires and the leader of the werewolves shouted hysterically at the back of the troops. They were ready to tear those deserters to shreds. The combat strength of the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City was so strong that even the low-level vampires and werewolves knew that they would be punished or even killed if they tried to escape. Therefore, they could not help but want to escape. Some of them even started to take action. Unfortunately, an existence more powerful than them had ordered them not to escape. And this was the natural law of the two races. The lower class obeyed the higher class. No one could change that. Seeing that there was no way to escape, the vampires and werewolves could only attack the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City with all their might. If he wanted to regain his freedom, he would have to help red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro defeat Yi Qin's Reincarnation Immortal City army. Now, they had no other choice. Ding! A soldier under your command has killed a vampire. The soldier has obtained innate attribute points x1 and experience points x10 times. Ding! A soldier under your command has killed a werewolf. The soldier has obtained innate attribute points x1, experience points x10 times. Ding! A general under your command, Guan Yu, has killed a barren vampire. He has obtained innate attribute points x2, experience points x10 times. Ding! A general under your command, Zhao Yun, has killed a black-furred werewolf leader. He has obtained innate attribute points x2, experience points x10 times. Under the bombardment of countless notifications, Yi Qin's mind was in a mess. However, Yi Qin was not dissatisfied at all. This was because the rewards were increasing. Moreover, the strength of the soldiers and generals of the Reincarnation Immortal City was increasing rapidly. It was not a wasted trip. The rewards this time were not low. At this thought, Yi Qin could not help but smile. The night wind whistled, and the warhorses rumbled. The endless massacre continued without stopping for a moment. Kill! As the soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City shouted, the sharp spiritual weapon spears pierced into the bodies of the werewolves and vampires. In the next moment, the spears pierced through the tough bodies of the enemies as easily as piercing a fragile piece of paper. In the next moment, blood spurted out continuously. As the spears were pulled out of the bodies of the werewolves and vampires, a cloud of blood mist exploded at the same time. Then, shrill cries of agony filled the night sky again. Blood spurted out from the bodies of the vampires and werewolves and formed puddles on the ground. The ground outside the city was dyed red. The sharp claws of the werewolves and vampires scratched the armor of the soldiers of the reincarnation immortal city, but they could only leave a shallow mark. They could not break through the defense at all. Seeing their comrades fall into the puddles of blood, the werewolves and vampires attacked even more fiercely. There was no way to retreat or escape. They could only attack continuously. Unfortunately, no matter how crazy they were, the outcome was still the same. Batches after batches of them charged forward dauntlessly. They roared angrily. They could not accept this. They could not accept this. Unfortunately, no matter how much they roared, no matter how afraid they were, and no matter how unwilling they were, it was useless. Their numbers were still decreasing rapidly. Chapter 1146. On the city walls of Roma City, the red-robed Archbishop Fidro looked at the one-sided massacre outside the city. His face, which was already ugly, darkened immediately. Why did it turn out like this? Why were those high-level vampires torn apart as soon as they came up? Fidro did not allow the high-level vampires and werewolves to participate in the battle at first, because he was worried that the army of reincarnation immortal city would be wiped out completely. If that happened, his plan to lure the Blood Emperor and the Golden Wolf King would be ruined. Now, the cruel reality clearly told him one thing. His plan would not be ruined, but the 50 million vampires and werewolves that the Luo denomination had accumulated over thousands of years would be destroyed because of this. This result would make him a sinner of the Luo denomination and be condemned by the Pope and all the members of the Luo denomination. Although he was in a high position and was second only to the Pope, he would still be punished for losing the hidden trump card of the Luo denomination. Of course, this result was not absolute. As long as he could lure the gods like the angels from the realm of the gods down and become a god servant due to his meritorious service, he would become an existence above the Pope, and the punishment of the Luo denomination would not be imposed on him. However, the probability of this happening was not very high. This was also the reason why Fidro's face was so dark after seeing the allied army of vampires and werewolves being slaughtered wantonly by the army of reincarnation immortal city. Sir Fidro, I think we should send the high-level vampires and werewolves. If this goes on, the low-level vampires and werewolves will be wiped out. The Emperor of the Eagle Country looked at the vampires and werewolves that were turning into fireworks outside the city and swallowed his saliva. He then looked at Fidro and said, "Yes, Sir Fidro, the sooner we send the high-level vampires and werewolves, the sooner we destroy Yi Yu of Gojoseon and his protection organization, the sooner peace can be restored in the Western continent." The Emperor of the founding country nodded in agreement and said. When the emperors of the other countries heard this, they all agreed. The red-robed Archbishop Fidro, whose face was so dark that water could drip from it, tried hard to calm his heart that was beating violently due to the shock. Don't worry, it's not time yet. He wanted to send high-level vampires and werewolves to join the battle, but the problem was that he couldn't give the order now. The high-level vampires and werewolves were easily torn apart by the army of the reincarnation immortal city as if they were made of paper. If he really gave such an order, he would lose a lot of face. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame himself for being too full of himself. Rumble, rumble, 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth rumbled. The army of the reincarnation immortal city charged again and again, brutally and mercilessly slaughtering the vampires and werewolves. The gorgeous fireworks that lit up the entire night sky lit up one after another. At the rear of the vampires and werewolves' joint army, the vampire princes and silver-haired werewolves were locked onto by Yi Chen's divine sense, but were not imprisoned. Their eyes were scarlet as they watched their clansmen being slaughtered. They had wanted to make a move for a long time, but they did not dare to because Yi Chen, who was not far from them, had locked onto them. If it was just an ordinary lock-on, they would not be afraid to make a move. After all, Yi Chun, who had locked onto them, was also at the tribulation stage, which was the same as them. However, the problem was that Yi Chun, a human who was at the same level as them, released an aura that was too strong. That aura was thicker than the mountains and bigger than the sea. No matter how they resisted, they could not suppress Yi Chun's aura. What did this mean? It was very simple. The combat power of Yi Chun, a human, was much higher than that of a real tribulation stage cultivator. Otherwise, such a situation would not have happened. And this point could be easily seen from the fact that the vampires and werewolves of the Immortal Foundation and Divine Martial Realm were unable to move when the weapons were about to reach them. They would not believe that it was not Yi Chun who had imprisoned these vampires and werewolves. We can't go on like this. Let's use Bloody Berserk. Otherwise, they will only be slaughtered one-sidedly. A slender vampire prince said in a low voice as he withdrew his gaze from the battlefield. Who will use it? The other vampire princes looked over and asked when they heard this. I'll do it. The slender vampire prince sighed when he heard this and said. The silver-haired werewolves of the werewolf clan looked at the slender vampire prince and said, We will protect your heart. We will protect your heart until the crimson moon returns. Thank you. The slender vampire prince nodded and said. After that, his right hand, which had long fingernails, straightened up and then cut his left wrist. After a sizzling sound, scarlet blood instantly spurted out from his wrist. The strange thing was that the blood that spurted out from his body did not fall to the ground. Instead, it floated quietly in front of him. Soon, his originally pale complexion turned gray. At the same time, the wound on the slender vampire prince's left wrist healed automatically. Looking at the large blob of blood floating in front of him, the slender vampire prince's eyes widened and he shouted, Bloody Berserk! Buzz! With a sound, the large blob of blood in front of the slender vampire prince suddenly glowed red. Then, countless blood-colored light spots flew out from it and shot toward all the vampires and werewolves. In the distance, Yi Chun, who was floating in the sky, saw this and could not help but frown. This is just as Yi Chun thought of this. The high-level vampires and werewolves who had been imprisoned in place by Yi Chun's huge power roared at the sky. Roar, roar, roar. In the next second, Yi Chun felt as if he could no longer restrain Shao Chun. There is some skill. However, even so, what can he do? Thinking of this, Yi Chun smiled coldly. Then he moved his feet and instantly arrived in the sky above the battlefield. At this moment, tens of thousands of high-level vampires and werewolves who had been freed from imprisonment rushed toward the army of the reincarnation Immortal City. Seeing this, Yi Chun narrowed his eyes. Then he raised his right hand and shouted, Thunder! As soon as Yi Chun finished his words, the sound of thunder that shook the heavens and earth was heard. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, tens of thousands of violent lightning bolts that were as thick as wash basins appeared and struck directly at the high-level vampires and werewolves. Boom, boom, boom. After a series of explosions, tens of thousands of high-level vampires and werewolves were killed on the spot and turned into ashes. At the same time, a series of system notifications sounded. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for killing the Vampire Earl. The reward is innate attribute points x 1,000 and experience points x 10 times. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for killing the blue-haired werewolf. The reward is innate attribute points x 1,000 and experience points x 10 times. As soon as the system notifications ended, the corners of Yi Chun's mouth curled up. Damn, the innate attribute points are a big game this time. As long as I can ascend, I can use these innate attribute points and become a divine immortal or even a golden immortal. If I include the experience points that I have accumulated so far, advancing to a golden immortal is a sure thing. I like this mission. On the city wall of Roma, the red-robed Archbishop Fidro, who had been watching the battlefield, narrowed his eyes. This is you of Beaks from the Great Han Empire? How can he control the power of thunder? No, No way. He is Prince of Han? Is he an immortal from the east? Emperor Ida, who saw Yi Chen's killing spree, said in a daze. Who can stop him? Who can? Emperor Ida said in a daze. At the rear of the army of vampires and werewolves, the vampire princes and the silver-haired werewolves of the werewolf clan narrowed their eyes. In the next second, the vampire princes and the silver-haired werewolves of the werewolf clan looked at each other and shouted in unison, "Attack together!" As soon as they finished speaking, they attacked. 12 king-level vampires and silver-haired werewolves, whose strength was comparable to the tribulation stage, launched their strongest attack at Yi Chen. For a moment, there were many afterimages, and the wind whistled. When Yi Chen saw this, he smiled coldly, overconfident. Chapter 1147. As Yi Chen thought of this, the attacks of the 6 vampire princes and the 6 silver-haired werewolves hit Yi Chen. Clang, 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 after the intense sounds of metal colliding. Yi Chen was unscathed. The pupils of the 6 vampire princes and the 6 silver-haired werewolves shrank at the same time when they noticed this. How is this possible? It wasn't that they didn't think that Yi Chen was stronger than the average tribulation stage cultivator. However, no matter how much they thought about it, they didn't expect Yi Chen, a human, to be unscathed under their combined attacks. What did this mean? It was very simple. Yi Chen's physical body was so strong that he could ignore their attacks. In the distance, the Eastern players who were watching this scene swallowed their saliva one by one. Yi Yu of Gojoseon doesn't seem to be wearing any defensive equipment. You didn't see wrong. Yi Yu of Gojoseon really doesn't wear any defensive equipment. This is too abnormal, isn't it? Is this still a human's body? If I'm not wrong, Yi Yu of Gojoseon should have cultivated some kind of protective technique like the Golden Bell Shield. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so abnormal. Don't talk nonsense. The Golden Bell Shield is nothing. Even if it's fully mastered, it can't rely on the attack of a heaven-grade weapon. Then what technique does Yi Yu of Gojoseon cultivate? Who the F***CK knows? Anyway, I only know one thing. Yi Yu of Gojoseon's cultivation technique is much better than ours. You don't know, right? Let me tell you. Hurry up and tell us. What's the hurry? Do you still remember when the meteor fell to Earth before the Primordial Age game started? I remember. What's the matter? What does this have to do with Yi Yu of Gojoseon's technique? It has nothing to do with it. It has a lot to do with it. Do you know what fell with the meteor when it fell to Earth? F***CK, don't keep me in suspense. Just say it. Forget it. I'll tell you directly. When a meteor fell to Earth, other than various treasures, there was also an item called the Game Chamber. This thing can be used to log into the Primordial World game. Of course, this is not the main point. The main point is that apart from allowing us to bring more power out of the game world, it can also allow everyone who uses the game capsule to enter the game from the beginning to directly obtain high-level cultivation techniques. My previous boss obtained a gaming capsule before the Primordial World game was launched. Then, he was lucky enough to obtain a Khanate cultivation technique. For Yi Yu of Gojoseon to be so powerful, he must have obtained a gaming capsule as well. And his cultivation technique must be at the Khanate realm or even higher. F***CK. The gaming capsule can also increase the strength we bring back to the real world. Nonsense, I can't. Why would I say that? If that's the case, Yi Yu of Gojoseon is so strong. Not only did he obtain a top-notch cultivation technique, but he also obtained an awesome gaming capsule. That should be it. Otherwise, how could Yi Yu of Gojoseon rise so quickly? F***CK. I want a gaming capsule too. Because of Yi Chen's tyrannical performance, the Eastern players were discussing fervently. However, the topic quickly shifted to the gaming capsule. In the sky, Yi Chen, who was domineeringly and powerfully blocking the attacks of the vampire prince and the werewolf, looked at the Eastern players who were discussing nonstop in the distance and raised his eyebrows. In the real world, because of the gaming capsule, the massacre in the game world was about to begin. The gaming capsule was one of the items that fell to Earth with the meteor. Its function was to increase the strength that players brought back from the game to the real world. At the beginning of the game, players could also watch Pangu split, open the sky, and then comprehend cultivation techniques. It could be said that the gaming capsule was a super treasure for all players. It couldn't be helped. When players left the game world, they could only bring back a portion of the strength that they obtained from the game world. If they had a gaming capsule, they would obtain an additional 5% to 15% on the basis of this portion of strength. For all the players, this was a huge blow to their morale. Who didn't want to become stronger? Who didn't want to have more strength? Everyone wanted to. Therefore, it was fine if the secret of the gaming capsule wasn't exposed. Once it was, then there would be more and more killings because of the gaming capsule. To be more precise, everyone would fall into a state of jealousy because of the gaming capsule. Then there would be chaos and big fights. It couldn't be helped. The enhancement that the gaming capsule could bring didn't seem to be much, but in reality, it was extremely useful. Everyone wanted to bring back more strength from the game world. Of course, although the real world was chaotic, Yichun wouldn't be affected. After all, Yichun had developed to the point where players could only look up to him. Even if the players knew that Yichun had an awesome gaming capsule, they wouldn't dare to have any ideas about Yichun. Nothing could escape the word benefit, whether it was for immortals or humans. It was like that in the previous life, and it was the same in this life. In the past, he had never thought of subduing the Beauty Alliance. Now that he really had to get them some gaming capsules. The gaming capsule was very useful. With the Star Pearl, Yichun could bring 100% of the power from the game world back to the real world. Naturally, he didn't need the gaming capsule. However, it was different for the Beauty Alliance that had completely submitted to Yichun. They still needed the gaming capsule. After returning to the real world, he would get the Black Emperor to wander around and get a batch of gaming capsules back. At the thought of this, Yichun looked straight at the 6 vampire princes and the 6 silver-haired werewolves who had fled immediately after the attack, but didn't dare to escape because of the Luo sex control. Die! After Yichun finished speaking coldly, he raised his left hand and pointed at the void. Buzz, buzz, buzz. After 12 dull, buzzing sounds, 12 pure white balls of Grand Sun primordial fire appeared in an instant, and then disappeared into the void. Just as the 6 vampire princes and the 6 silver-haired werewolves were dumbfounded, the 12 balls of true sun fire that had just disappeared suddenly appeared behind them and crashed into their bodies. Bam, bam, bam. After a series of explosions, the 6 vampire princes and the 6 silver-haired werewolves were instantly set ablaze by the true sun fire and burned intensely. Roar, shrill howls followed closely. Then, the vampire princes and the silver-haired werewolves who were being burned by the true sun fire were trying their best to extinguish the true sun fire on their bodies. However, it was useless. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't extinguish the true sun fire on their bodies at all. Boom, boom, boom. Intense explosions rang out one after another. Roar. The extremely miserable howls rose once again, and then it returned to silence. In the next second, the corpses of the 6 vampire princes and the silver-haired werewolves fell to the ground along with the corpses that were turning into ashes. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichun for killing the vampire princes. Player Yichun is rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000 and experience points increased tenfold. Ding! Congratulations to player Yichun for killing the silver-haired werewolves. Player Yichun is rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000 and experience points increased tenfold. On the city walls of Roma City, the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro swallowed his saliva when he saw this. At this moment, extreme panic involuntarily appeared in his heart. He couldn't help it. The vampire army and the werewolf army were annihilated, but the Blood Emperor of the vampire clan and the Golden Wolf King of the werewolf clan didn't appear. If they didn't appear, the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro wouldn't be able to pray to the heavenly realm and inform the heavenly realm about the appearance of the Blood Emperor and the Golden Wolf King. If he didn't pass this message to the heavenly realm would send an angel down. After that, he would have to face Yi Chun, the monster that made his soul tremble. He wanted to face Yi Chun, but did he dare to face Yi Chun? How could he dare? Just as the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro's face was filled with panic, a world announcement suddenly sounded. Ding! Player Yi Chun has independently completed the world quest, Revenge of the Vampires. Player Yi Chun is rewarded with Big Mystery Gift Pack X1. Ding! Player Yi Chun has independently completed the world quest, Revenge of the Werewolves. Player Yi Chun is rewarded with Big Mystery Gift Pack X1. In the sky, Yi Chun, who had wiped out the vampire clan and the werewolf clan in one fell swoop, glanced at Roma City and pointed the god-slaying spear in his right hand at Roma City. Attack the city, kill them all, leave no one alive. Chapter 1148. Kill. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other military generals raised their weapons and shouted. After the group of military generals finished shouting, they rushed towards Roma City at high speed. Behind them were 41 million soldiers from Reincarnation Immortal City who were dyed red. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth rumbled. Dian Wei, who was the first to reach the city gate, waved the halberd in his hand. After a loud bang, the city gate of Roma City instantly burst open. Then, it turned into incomparably dense fragments that shot out rapidly. Kill. Dian Wei, who was the first to break the city gate, shouted and was the first to rush into Roma City. Zhao Yun, Guan Yu, Huang Zhong, Zhang Fei, and the other military generals followed closely behind. After that, it was the 41 million soldiers from Reincarnation Immortal City. The soldiers in Roma City knew that they were going to die. They had no way out and could only choose to fight to the death. When they saw the Reincarnation Immortal City's army charging into the city, they roared and rushed toward the city gate. Just like that, the two armies collided violently at the city gate. Bang, bang, bang. After a series of explosions, the soldiers of Roma City turned into broken limbs that flew all over the sky. Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhao Yun, Zhang Fei, and the other military generals led the way. No one could stop them. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army that followed closely behind was also unstoppable. In an instant, blood spurted and broken limbs flew everywhere. In less than 10 minutes, the city gate of Roma City turned into a hell slaughterhouse again. Charge! Fight them! The military generals of Roma City led the soldiers and rushed toward the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. They knew that they could not defeat the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, but they still rushed forward. This was because they had heard about the strategy of annihilating the army of the Reincarnation Immortal City countless times. They had thought of surrendering. Unfortunately, it was useless. The army of Reincarnation Immortal City wouldn't make an exception for them. If they stuck their head out, they would be stabbed. If they retracted their head, they would still be stabbed. No one wanted to sullenly wait for death. Rather than that, he might as well choose to die with a bang. That would be more satisfying. Kill them all. Leave no one alive. The cold and merciless orders came from Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, Li Yuanba, and the other generals. The Reincarnation Immortal City's army, which was already ferocious, doubled their attacks in an instant. The saber flashed with a cold light, like a bolt of lightning. In an instant, it cut through the armor of the Roma City guards and cut open their bodies. Dark red blood continuously spurted out from the bodies of the Roma City's defenders. Clang, clang. Clang, clang. The spear shadows were like a forest, and the saber formation was like a sea. The weapons clashed, and the fanatical sounds of killing were mixed together. The two armies clashed again and again. Unfortunately, the goddess of victory was completely on the side of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army. No matter how hard the Roma City guards fought or how much they shouted, it was useless. Ha ha! Delightful. Brothers, follow me and kill. Kill all these foreign races. Zhang Fei galloped back and forth on his warhorse. Wherever he passed, he left behind a stretch of struggling, twisted corpses with faces full of horror. Kill! Wei raised his blood-stained halberd high up and ferociously swept his way. Wherever he passed, not a single Roma city guard could be left with a complete corpse. Roma City, Inner City. When the reincarnation Immortal City's army attacked the city, the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro and the others hurriedly retreated from the city walls. When they heard the sounds of killing that resounded throughout the city, their bodies involuntarily trembled. Archbishop, let's retreat. The Eagle Kingdom's emperor glanced in the direction of the sounds of killing. He hurriedly came in front of the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro and advised him in a low voice. Retreat? Where to? The red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro originally wanted to use the Blood Emperor and the Wolf King with golden hair to lure the angels to the lower realm. However, his wishful thinking did not come to fruition. The Blood Emperor and the Wolf King had not appeared until now. This meant that his plan had failed. Such a blow to the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro could not be said to be insignificant. When the Eagle Kingdom's emperor heard this, he hurriedly said, "We can retreat to the Magnesium Kingdom through the secret passage. Where there's life, there's hope. Sir Fidro, don't hesitate. If you delay any longer, you won't be able to leave." Sigh. All right, let's go. Soon, the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro and hundreds of Western Continent emperors, as well as their followers, packed up their luggage in an extremely short period of time. They entered the secret passage of Roma City and prepared to take advantage of the chaos of the battle to escape through the night. However, Yi Chun, who had been paying attention to the situation on the battlefield, immediately discovered their little movements. "Idiot, you still want to escape in front of me?" Yi Chun sneered. His figure moved and instantly appeared in the sky above Roma City. Then, he raised his left hand and sucked in the void. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. After hundreds of sounds, the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro, the Western Continent emperors, and their followers all flew into the sky and then stopped in midair. The reincarnation Immortal City's army was very fast. In less than half an hour, the battle was over. After the battle, when they checked the battlefield, they did not find the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro and the Western Continent emperors. Just as the military generals were searching everywhere, Yi Chun waved his left hand, and the red-cloaked Archbishop Fidro and the Western Continent emperors landed directly on the ground. Get ready to execute these people in public. Yi Chun instructed Guan Yu and returned directly to the reincarnation Immortal City. After receiving the order, Guan Yu immediately ordered the soldiers to build the execution platform and prepare to execute them in public. During the execution, millions of Eastern players who followed behind the reincarnation Immortal City's army to pick up the corpses stood on the high ground outside the city and watched from afar. Is Yu of Gojoseon going to execute these native nobles in public? Nonsense, isn't it obvious? A few of them are dressed differently. They're probably the native emperors of the Western continent. I think so too. Previously, Yu of Gojoseon only made the world announcement after killing those emperors. I wonder how many times those Western continent players have been killed. None of them have wet their pants. Who cares about them? When Yu of Gojoseon leaves, we'll continue to kill them. We can't let them have it easy. F***CK. You're actually telling the truth. How can we not kill them? How can we get EXP if we don't kill them? Ha ha. The Eastern players watched the execution scene and discussed it one after another. They talked and laughed without restraint. However, the World Channel, which had been silent for a long time, suddenly exploded. F***CK. 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 Yi Chun, you inhuman scum. You've killed us so many times. You're too cruel and perverted. Mr. Yi, I, Zoro, am willing to be your loyal servant. Please accept my knees, Honorable Prince Yu of Han. I'm willing to submit to you. Please accept me. I'm willing to be loyal to you forever, Honorable Yu of Beach. I, Angelina, am willing to be your slave. I only ask that you bring me from the real world to the east. As long as you're willing, Angelina will follow you forever and never betray you. Haha, Boss Ichin is awesome. Did you see that? These Western continent players are begging for mercy. Of course, look at who's doing it. That's the number one player in the East, Yi Chun and Yi Laoda. Chapter 1149. Just as the Eastern players and the Western continent players, who had been killed countless times and had fallen into despair and anger, were spamming the World Channel, two tall figures suddenly flew in from outside Rome. Seeing the sudden appearance of the two figures, the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro, who was being escorted to the platform, was stunned for a moment. Then his eyes lit up. They're here! They're here! They're really here! Blood Emperor Arthur, Wolf King Karen. The red-robed Archbishop Phaedro, whose face was covered in soot, looked at the two tall figures in the sky excitedly. He could now confirm that the two figures were the Blood Emperor of the Vampire Clan and the Wolf King with golden hair of the Werewolf Clan. The two of them had been hiding from the pursuit of the Celestial Court and had never shown themselves. If he wanted to force them to appear, he would have to kill the Vampire Clan and the Werewolf Clan to the brink of extinction. This was the information that the red-robed Archbishop had received. However, when the Vampire Clan and the Werewolf Clan were exterminated, they did not appear. This made the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro think that his plan had failed and fell into despair. Now, the appearance of the Vampire Clan's Blood Emperor Arthur and the Werewolf King Karen gave the red-robed Archbishop Phaedro a boost of confidence. Once they appeared, the red-robed Archbishop of the Luo denomination could easily contact the Heavenly Realm. After that, the Heavenly Realm would definitely send an angel down. This way, Phaedro would receive a reward and avoid the fate of being executed. Reincarnation Immortal City, City Lord's Mansion. Yi Chun, who had just returned, suddenly frowned. Then, he looked directly at the Blood Emperor and the Wolf King who were flying toward Rome. Human Immortal Realm, one with the scent of a vampire and the other with the scent of a werewolf. These were the final bosses of the Vampire Clan and the Werewolf Clan. It should be... Thinking of this, Yi Chun waved his right hand, and the Khanate Cardinal Treasure Godslayer appeared instantly. Glancing at the innate cardinal treasure in his hand, the god-slaying spear, Yi Chun took a step forward and disappeared. In the sky above Rome, the Blood Emperor Arthur and the Wolf King Karen, who had just arrived, sniffed the air, and their faces sank. Within Roma City, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals who were lying on countless blood-soaked corpses looked at Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen in the sky. Then, their expressions changed. Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen's auras were very strong, so strong that Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and the other generals felt like they couldn't contend against them. This was an absolute suppression in terms of cultivation level. Otherwise, such a situation would not have occurred. But even so, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals still raised their weapons and roared, "Be on guard!" In the sky, Blood Emperor Arthur, who had locked his gaze on the army of Reincarnation Immortal City, glared with his scarlet eyes and asked in a stern voice, "You have the scent of my vampire children on you when they died. Did you kill my children? They still have the scent of my werewolf children when they died. They also killed my werewolf children." Wolf King Karen glared with her green eyes and roared with fury. "A bunch of ants! How dare you kill my children? Die!" Blood Emperor Arthur's eyes turned even redder when he heard this. At this moment, the space around Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen suddenly distorted. Then, they saw Yi Chun take a step forward and appear there. Wolf King Karen, who was the first to discover Yi Chun, turned her head to look at Yi Chun and roared in a tyrannical manner, "Who is it?" Yi Chun looked at Wolf King Karen and Blood Emperor Arthur and said, "The person who will kill you." When Yi Chun finished speaking, Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen were both stunned. In the next second, Blood Emperor Arthur roared, "Brat, you deserve to die." Blood Emperor Arthur's voice was filled with terrifying killing intent. In an instant, an extremely evil energy completely locked onto Yi Chun. At this moment, heaven and earth were completely enveloped by a bloody light. Boundless pressure was like a huge mountain pressing down on Yi Chun's body. This pressure might be fatal to others, but it had no effect on Yi Chun. Seeing that Yi Chun was not affected by his pressure, Blood Emperor Arthur was stunned. Then, he raised his right hand and waved it at Yi Chun. With a buzzing sound, an incomparably huge bloody claw appeared in an instant and shot directly at Yi Chun. Seeing that the bloody demonic claw was about to grab Yi Chun, Blood Emperor Arthur's eyes flashed with a cruel glint. Die. In his opinion, Yi Chun, a transcending tribulation stage human, had no way of resisting his bloody claw attack. At the same time, Wolf King Karen also launched her strongest attack at Yi Chun. Little thief, you dare to kill my clansman? Die. Wolf King Karen roared as she attacked. Her claw tore through the sky, creating a boundless wave of astral winds. Following that, an extremely terrifying and tyrannical aura was released from her body. The huge wolf claw was wrapped in a boundless wave of astral winds as it pressed down on Yi Chun's head with extreme speed. When Yi Chun saw this, he couldn't help but curl his lips in disdain. If I had obtained the innate golden body of merit, the grade 12 black lotus of destruction, and the mysterious yellow pagoda of heaven and earth, I really wouldn't have been able to deal with you. Thinking of this, Yi Chun moved his mind, and a huge golden statue instantly appeared behind Yi Chun. At the same time, 9 incomparably huge golden light wheels appeared directly behind the head of the huge golden statue behind Yi Chun. Following all these changes was the golden light that filled the entire sky. For a moment, the pitch-black night sky was illuminated by the golden light. In the distance, the Eastern players who saw this scene were all dumbfounded. Damn, what kind of move is Yi Yu of Gojoseon using? I don't know, but it looks very cool and domineering. Why do I feel like it's a Buddha? Although that golden statue isn't bald, that's how it feels. Summoning the Buddha? Is Yi Yu of Gojoseon going to use the Buddha's palm? Just as the Eastern players were discussing the sudden appearance of the golden statue behind Yi Chun, Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen's attacks descended. After 2 buzzing sounds, the space in front of Yi Chun suddenly became filled with golden ripples. However, Yi Chun didn't move at all. It was obvious that Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen's attacks had been completely nullified. At this moment, Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen, whose eyes had been filled with bloodthirstiness, both stiffened. Then, their bodies started to burn at a visible rate. Along with the burning of their bodies, blood-red ashes appeared and drifted in the wind. In the next second, an extremely mournful and miserable howl rang out. Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen's screams came one after another, and they became louder and sharper. The speed at which their bodies turned into ashes became faster and faster. What kind of power is this? Blood Emperor Arthur yelled in horror. Stop! Quickly stop! I submit. Wolf King Karen shouted with a face full of fear. When Yi Chun heard this, he glanced at Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen before curling his lips in disdain. F***CK. If I don't kill you, I'll reap the benefits? Although these 2B** stars appeared after the completion of the mission and couldn't be counted as part of the mission, they were still human immortals. Moreover, they were the final bosses of the 2 races. Wouldn't it be a waste if he didn't kill them? Speaking of which, the F***King innate golden body of merit was actually so overpowered. It didn't even need to use the God Slayer to suppress these 2 pretentious B** stars. Just as Yi Chun thought of this, 2 screams filled with despair sounded. The Blood Emperor Arthur and the Wolf King Karen both turned into ashes that filled the sky and disappeared. Long live the Lord! Long live the Lord! Long live the Lord! A loud roar that went straight to the sky rang out from Roma City in an instant. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, Huang Zhong, and the other generals, as well as the soldiers of the Reincarnation Immortal City, all cheered excitedly. Just as the army of the reincarnation immortal city was cheering, the system notification rang in Yi Chen's ears. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing the final boss of the vampire race, Blood Emperor Arthur. Player Yi Chen is rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000 and innate merit x 100 million. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing the final boss of the werewolf race, Wolf King Karen. Player Yi Chen is rewarded with innate attribute points x 10,000 and innate merit x 100 million. As soon as the system notification ended, a world announcement rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing the hidden big bosses, Blood Emperor Arthur and Wolf King Karen. Player Yi Chen is rewarded with lottery dice x 100, innate attribute points x 10,000 and innate merit x 100 million. The world announcement rang out 3 times, causing the entire world channel to explode. F*CK. What's going on? Didn't Yu of Gojoseon complete the world mission? Why is there a Blood Emperor and Wolf King? Or a hidden big boss? I'm not sure about the details. I'm still killing Japanese in the East Continent. That's not important. What's important is that Yu of Gojoseon killed them. It doesn't matter if you're convinced or not. You can only watch. Are you trying to drive a wedge between us? Don't talk nonsense. I'm just stating facts. But then again, it would be great if Yu of Gojoseon could share some of the benefits with me. The world channel was in an uproar. Yi Chen glanced at it, then looked at Guan Yu and shouted, "Continue the execution." "Yes, Lord." When Guan Yu heard this, he hurriedly bowed and shouted. Chapter 1150. The moment Guan Yu's words were said, the Arch-Cardinal, Phaedro, who was brimming with energy and thought that his plan was about to succeed, immediately turned pale. Following that, he let out a cry filled with despair. "No! Why is this happening? Why is this happening?" The Blood Emperor of the vampires and the Wolf King of the werewolves had died too quickly. So quickly that he did not even have time to contact the heavenly realm before they both died. In this way, his plan to summon the angel to the lower realm had failed once again. And what did failure mean? It was very simple. He, the red-robed archbishop, would still be executed. How could Archbishop, who had realized this, not feel despair? The emperors of the various countries in the West Continent, who had no idea about the red-robed archbishop's plan, recovered from their shock and fell into despair once again. The appearance of the Blood Emperor of the vampires and the Wolf King had given them a glimmer of hope. After all, the final bosses of these 2 clans had appeared menacingly. It was obvious that they were not to be trifled with. Unfortunately, the 2 bosses of the 2 clans that they were looking forward to killing everyone and saving them did not appear. Instead, they died in a single blow. Damn it. Hope came quickly and disappeared quickly. It was better not to have come and save them from being agitated. No matter what the red-robed archbishop and the emperors of the various countries in the West Continent thought, no matter how afraid or desperate they were, it did not affect Guan Yu at all. After receiving Yi Chen's order, Guan Yu looked straight at the soldiers who were preparing to execute the prisoners and shouted, "Execute!" At Guan Yu's command, the soldiers who were holding long swords immediately raised their hands and slashed down. Crack! A neat sound was heard, and dozens of heads fell to the ground one after another. At this moment, a series of announcements appeared in the world channel again. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for completely conquering the Luo Sex Roma City in the West Continent. Special reward: innate attribute points x 10,000 points. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for killing the red-robed archbishop. Special reward: innate attribute points x 50,000, supreme great spirit stones x 100,000, providence x ****. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for conquering the entire Western Continent and obtaining all the providence of heaven and earth in the Western Continent. At the same time, you will be rewarded x 10,000 innate attribute points, heaven and earth providence points. Asterisk 100,000 Supreme Grade Spirit Stones. Innate Merit X asterisk asterisk points. Ding. Player Yi Chun has killed all the natives of the Western continent in this war. The title of Great Han War God has leveled up. Great Han War God title current level. Level 2. Ding. Due to player Yi Chun's outstanding performance in the Nation Extermination War, player Yi Chun is specially rewarded with a Super Gift Pack X1. As soon as the world announcement stopped, the entire world channel went into an uproar again. All of the Eastern players began to discuss enthusiastically. Wow, had Yi Yu of Gojoseon already destroyed the West Province? That's too fast. That's right. How long has it been? They had just destroyed the empire of Southeast Asia, and now they were going to destroy the West State? This speed is so fast that I can't believe it. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is going to be the leader of the Earth. He's too damn strong. In front of Yi Yu of Gojoseon's army, those foreigners and natives were like clay and paper. They were too weak. Yi Yu of Gojoseon, mighty, will always support you. Yi Yu of Gojoseon, I want to give birth to your children. Those white-skinned pigs of the Western continent need to be taught a lesson. Yi Yu of Gojoseon has helped all the Easterners vent their anger. That's right. Aren't those idiots of the Western continent good at acting cool? Let's see how they're going to act cool this time. That's right. Those who offend the Easterners must be killed. Those white-skinned pigs of the Western continent should have been killed long ago. This time, Yi Yu of Gojoseon has killed them all. That's really satisfying. Yi Yu of Gojoseon is mighty. Kill all the white-skinned pigs. Seeing that the Western continent had been destroyed, some of the American players who had snuck over to watch the battle from afar returned to the American continent with pale faces. Since the start of the World War, only the American continent, where America was located, had not been attacked in the entire game world. At first glance, the American continent and America were safe. However, Yi Chun's actions made it seem like he was going to conquer the entire world. Therefore, the American continent would definitely be attacked by Yi Chun. This was what all the American players who had snuck over to watch the battle were thinking. Peace talks? That was impossible. Yi Chun was the strongest player in the East. It was impossible for him to accept peace talks. Otherwise, how could he have destroyed all the countries he had swept through? As for resistance, Yi Chun's strength, dominance, and brutality, as well as the cruelty, coldness, and mercilessness of the Reincarnation Immortal City's army, made them lose all will to resist. If not for the fact that America had the strongest player other than Yi Chun, the Pope, they might have fallen into despair. Even so, they were still unsure and fearful. They didn't dare to fight against Yi Chun, the strongest player in the game. However, they had no choice. Yi Chun's order was to kill them all. The only thing they could do was to return to America and prepare for war. There was no other choice. Reincarnation Immortal City, Castellan's mansion. Yi Chun, who had killed the Blood Emperor and the Wolf King, returned and summoned 3 gift packs. 2 of the gift packs were the big gift pack that he had obtained from completing the invasion of the werewolves and vampires. The other gift pack was the super gift pack that he had obtained from conquering the entire Western continent. What did he get this time? Thinking up to this point, Yi Chun directly opened all 3 gift bags. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining Celestial Weapon Azure Dragon Equipment, Set Blueprint X1. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining Celestial Weapon White Tiger Equipment, Set Blueprint X1. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining Celestial Weapon Vermilion Bird Equipment, Set Blueprint X1. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining Celestial Weapon Black Tortoise Equipment, Set Blueprint X1. After 4 consecutive notifications, Yi Chun was presented with 4 blueprints. The Super Gift Pack contained 2 blueprints. Celestial Weapon Equipment Set Blueprint. Holy shit. This is what I got. Yi Chun looked at the 4 pieces of paper with a shocked expression. Azure Dragon Equipment Set Blueprint. Celestial Weapon Special Blueprint Effect. Can be used to create the Celestial Weapon Equipment Set, the Azure Dragon Equipment Set. This blueprint contains the method to create the celestial weapon equipment set. After collecting all the materials, the equipment craftsman can create the celestial weapon equipment set according to the blueprint. White Tiger Equipment Set Blueprint, Celestial Weapon Special Blueprint, Vermilion Bird Equipment Set Blueprint, Celestial Weapon Special Blueprint, Black Tortoise Equipment Set Blueprint, Celestial Weapon Special Blueprint. The descriptions of the 4 blueprints were almost the same. The only difference was their names. After looking at the description of the blueprints, Yi-chan could not help but laugh out loud. My luck is so good. Whatever I lack, I get it. Equipment Set Blueprint could be used to create an entire set of weapons and armor, and it was specifically for the use of an army. However, this kind of equipment set blueprint was extremely rare. The higher the grade, the harder it was to obtain. Otherwise, Yi-chan would not be so excited. Originally, Yi-chan wanted to find a way to get the high-level equipment set blueprint after he ascended to the Eldritch World. Then, he would be able to change the equipment of the Reincarnation Immortal City Army. Now that he had obtained 4 sets of celestial equipment set blueprints, Yi-chan did not have to worry about this at all. Of course, Yi-chan's excitement had a lot to do with Yi-chan's Khanate Cardinal Treasure, the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth. With the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth, as long as the blacksmiths trained by Yi-chan advanced to the equipment craftsman level and reached the level of crafting celestial weapons, they could start to create the 4 sets of equipment. Once the 4 sets of equipment were created on a large scale, Yi-chan could use the Cauldron of Heaven and Earth to upgrade the original celestial equipment sets to acquired spiritual treasures. Was an army fully equipped with acquired spiritual treasures strong? The answer was yes, they were strong. Not only strong, but they were also abnormally strong. Damn, ordinary monster kings did not even have acquired spiritual treasures. But Yi-chan had one for each of his soldiers. If this was not strong, then what was? Damn, this trip to the West Continent was not in vain. Not to mention the other rewards, just these 4 blueprints made this trip absolutely worth it. Great Han Empire, Luoyang Imperial Palace, Golden Imperial Palace. The Emperor of the Great Han Empire, Lu Hong, was discussing matters with the civil and military officials in the imperial court. At this moment, a loud shout suddenly rang out. Reporting, Great victory! Great victory in the West Continent. Not long after, the messenger outside the palace joyfully rushed into the palace. After getting down on one knee, he reported to Lu Hong. Great victory in the West Continent? Where is the West Continent? Lu Hong was confused by the messenger's words. His face was full of confusion. What kind of place was the West Continent? Lu Hong did not know. Otherwise, he would not be like this. When a messenger heard Lu Hong's question, he was also stunned. Then, he hurriedly bowed and said, Your Majesty, this lowly one does not know. However, Yu of Gojoseon has indeed occupied the entire West Continent. Now, the entire West Continent has become the territory of the Great Han Empire. When Zhang Rang, who was beside Lu Hong, heard this, he thought for a moment, then bowed to Lu Hong and said, Your Majesty, the West Continent is close to the Empire of Southeast Asia, and it is not small. The moment Zhang Rang finished speaking, all the civil and military officials bowed to Lu Hong in unison. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is blessed by the heavens to have Yu of Gojoseon assist you, helping our Emperor establish a foundation that will last forever. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.